Chapter 1. Fishing. On an isolated island in the windless zone of the Great Root, Li Qiye has been trapped here for a week, alone. Except for the stones, the sand on the island is a dry forest. Fortunately, there is fresh water on the island, otherwise Mo Li would really collapse. Oh, it's a little troublesome. Drinking water won't solve the problem. Looking at the desolate island and the boundless sea, Li Qiye was a little worried. There is nothing to eat on the island, and drinking water alone cannot solve the problem of hunger. Several days have passed, and no boat has passed by. Staring at the sea with both eyes blank, when he suddenly saw the large sea beasts appearing from time to time in the distant sea, Mo Li's eyes lit up. Suddenly Li Qiye thought of a brilliant idea: fishing. There are so many sea fish, sea beasts in the sea, aren't they all food, and the sea beasts are so big that they can't be eaten in one meal. Mo Li, whose hungry eyes were glowing green, stood up excitedly, took off his shoes and left on the beach, then took off his black t-shirt, wearing only shorts, picked up the worn-out knife on the beach and held it in his hand. He hurriedly went into the sea and swam to the place where the sea beast appeared just now. Fishing requires bait, and there is nothing on the island, so Li can only use himself as bait to catch sea beasts. If anyone saw this scene, they would definitely think that Li Qiye was already hungry. It's enough for a person to fish in a windless zone, and he also uses himself as a bait to fish, and the fish he wants to catch is the overlord of the Sea King. In the eyes of others, Li Qiye was very comfortable, and he didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Fishing, how can fishing not be fishing? Leisurely soaked in the sea, and also hummed a song that was often played in the Kendo Museum in the original world. The vast horizon is my love. Flowers are blooming at the foot of the green hills. What kind of rhythm is the most swinging? What kind of singing? Li Mo was bathing in the sea comfortably and singing. As the top predators in the sea kings have a very keen sense of smell and perception. Soon, the sea kings, who had been over 50 meters long, set their sights on Mo Li. Quickly rising from the deep sea, swinging their bodies frantically, the Neptunes were like rockets pointing at Li, who was taking a bath on the sea. At the same time, the huge mouth of the abyss full of sharp teeth also opened, ready to swallow Li Mo. Yo, I got hooked so soon. Feeling that the sea kings under his feet were getting closer and closer, the corner of Mo Li's mouth evoked a faint smile. The giant mouth of the sea kings below is getting closer and closer, but Mo Li's affection is extremely relaxed, as if he is really fishing, quietly waiting for the fish to bite the hook. Seeing that the bloody mouth was about to swallow Mo Li in one bite, at the critical moment, Mo Li exerted force on his feet. The sea where Mo Li was standing was like a sound wave hitting the water droplets vibrated, and Mo Li flew into the air like a cannonball. Boom! The sea kings fluttered and rushed out of the sea. Mo Li also saw the appearance of the sea kings clearly, with a zebra-like head, a mouth full of sharp teeth, and an overall body length of more than 50 meters, like a giant snake floating on the sea, with huge pupils staring at him. Mo Li in the air smiled slightly and took action, holding the scabbard knife in his left hand and changing it to his right. Mo Li is the bait, and the sea kings are the fish, so this knife is the fishing rod. The knife held in the hand is very simple, without any ornaments, the ring-shaped iron handguard, the ebony handle, and the wooden scabbard is very worn. In mid-air, Li Qiye didn't draw his sword, and even with the scabbard, he gently waved the sword towards the sea kings on the sea. A huge half-moon slash flew out. Tear! The huge sea king was slashed into two halves, and the huge body fell into the sea with a bang, and the blood stained the main sea area. With another knife, he cut the meat he needed. Li dragged the meat, tapped the sea with his toes, and returned to the island after a few ups and downs. As soon as Mo Li left his forefoot, several sea kings surfaced again and dragged the sea kings killed by Mo Li into the bottom of the sea. Mo Li, who was full of food and drink, lay beside the fire, looking at the stars in the sky. His eyes were blurred. For this unfamiliar world, unfamiliar ocean, Li has no idea what to do next, and he is not even sure if there are any human beings in this world. He does not belong to this world, he is a transmigrator. On that blue planet, he was just a swordsman who was addicted to kendo. For 10 years, he kept swinging his sword 1,000 times a day, and then he somehow realized something or opened some restrictions. Molly found that as long as he waved his knife, he could cut off any object. It may be that his body has broken through the human body limiter or the swordsmanship has broken through a certain realm. No matter what it is, whether it is steel or a mountain, even the hardest diamond is vulnerable to a single blow. Molly, who was originally passionate about swordsmanship, lost the motivation to practice swordsmanship after realizing this. Living a boring life every day, it was at this time that Molly crossed over and took the knife his father gave him. When he first came here, Li Qiye was still a little excited, but after exploring the whole island, Li Qiye found that there was no living thing on the island except for a spring, and the whole sea area had no waves at all. If it weren't for the sea from time to time, the sea beasts sprang out of the sea, and Molly thought it was a dead world. Molly wanted to leave this isolated island, but he could use his strength to jump on the sea, but he would definitely get lost. Where is this place? Which direction should we go? Now that the food problem has been solved, Limo knows that he is leaving and cannot always stay on this lonely island. For the next few days, Limo would go fishing every day, then knotted his t-shirt and made it into a simple cloth bag. Limo put a few pieces of roasted sea beast meat into the cloth bag, pinned the knife to his belt, carried the cloth bag, looked back at the small island where he had lived for more than 10 days, and turned to run into the sea. The calm sea was rippled by Molly's feet, and he ran quickly on the mirror-like quiet sea. Lee began to explore this world. Chapter 2. Uncle Yellow. Can you give me a ride? In the year 1517 of the High Yuanli, the era of the great pirates has been open for 17 years. The navy is no longer the only master of this sea. The words of the pirate king Gul D. Roger before his execution revealed the giant curtain of the era of the great pirates. Countless people who coveted open black lens bracket one piece close black lens bracket rushed to the sea. In the waters on the edge of the windless belt, a warship with a white seagull logo is chasing a pirate ship with a skull and cross flag on its mast. From time to time, the fire of the guns flashed on the warship, but the quasi-head was kind-hearted. All the shells hit the sea beside the pirate ship, and the explosion caused a high waterfall. The pirate ship also fired back, but he was kinder and didn't even touch the side of the warship. Report to Mr. General, the pirates are the Steel Knife Pirates. The captain is the Steel Knife Hope with a reward of 170 million yuan, and the front is the Windless Belt. After entering the Windless Belt, we will concentrate our firepower to destroy the Steel Knife Pirates. Regiment. On the deck of the warship, a navy saluted the Admiral Kizaru who was sitting on a chair cutting his nails and reported the battle. Kizaru put down his nail clippers, pouted his mouth in a strange arc, and said in surprise, 170 million, it's really scary, just do as you say. Mr. Waring States is really good at calling people. This kind of trivial task of patrolling the sea can be handed over to a lieutenant general. On the other hand, Hope, the captain of the Steel Knife Pirates, did not give in, and used all the weapons on the ship to shoot at the warships that were chasing behind. Damn, these navies are still haunted, little ones. Load up all the guns and give them some color. The Steel Knife Pirates had just robbed a merchant ship and had not had time to enjoy the spoils when they were discovered by the cruise ship where Kayabu was. When they saw the warship, the first reaction of the Steel Knife Pirates was to attack. The big pirates on the route, but take a closer look, the battleship that your navy generals are only qualified to drive, Steel Knife Hope immediately ordered to escape. Kizaru didn't even intend to take any action. He sat leisurely on a chair and trimmed his nails. After going back and forth, it formed a situation of you chasing me, and ran all the way to the windless zone. Mo Li, who was running on the sea, suddenly saw the lively fire of two ships in the distance. He was overjoyed. There were humans and hot weapons. Although it was not as high-tech as the original world, it was at least at the level of the Middle Ages. Limo looked at the cannonballs that exploded everywhere and scratched his head. It seems that they are having a good time. Li Li understood that it was inappropriate to disturb others to fight at this time, but he finally encountered a ship, so he couldn't just give up. So, Li ran in the direction where the two ships were fighting. After a while, Li Qiye ran to the vicinity of the two ships. "Hey, how are you? Can I take a boat?" Boom, boom, boom. There was another burst of artillery fire, and no one cared about Li Mo, who was shouting from under the boat. Mo Li was stunned for a moment, then thought, yes, the explosion of the shell must be too loud for them to hear, so I will get closer. Li Qiye didn't care about the cannonballs that he brushed past, walking through the center of the battle, standing in the middle of the two ships, and then Mo Li tapped the waves with his toes, jumped up, and waved his hands. "Hey, how are you?" The Navy and pirates, who were fighting just now, were immediately attracted by Mo Li. Because they saw a shirtless young man with a knife on his back, jumping up and down the sea. As if the sea is like a trampoline, it is strange not to attract attention. Fuck, who is that? He can stand on the sea. Is it a devil fruit power user? I don't know. Go and report to Mr. General. The two sides temporarily ceased fire, and both are watching what this person is going to do. I saw Mo Li jumped up, put his hand to his mouth, and shouted, "How are you? Can you let me take a boat?" PFF'd. Hearing Mo Li's words, both the Navy and the pirates spat out. Oh shit, with you jumping up and down, the strong man walking on the sea in the hail of bullets is just to take a boat. Grass, who cares about his ability? Shoot me, and shoot him first. After discovering that Li Qiye was a joke, Hope waved his hand and continued to command the pirates to shoot. Silently watching the cannonballs fired from the pirate ship coming towards him, Li Qiye had a black line on his face. Why did I invite you to provoke you? I thought that one party would agree to take the boat, but one party ignored him, and the other ignored him, but the way to say hello was a dozen artillery pieces. The people on your side are so rude. Li Qiye raised the inconspicuous broken knife without even pulling the scabbard, and waved it gently towards the pirate ship. With one slash, the huge wind pressure blasted all the dozen or so shells oncoming. What followed was a huge half-moon-shaped slash, which cut through the turbulent waves and slashed straight at the pirate ship dozens of meters away. The half-moon slash cut the pirate ship vertically. The pirate ship about 100 meters long was divided into two halves. The knife light passed by, leaving a smooth cut surface. The steel knife Hope was crushed to death by a huge slash on the spot. The surviving pirates fell into the sea one after another. In the windless zone, they fell into the sea. Unless he was a strong man like Li, the only thing waiting for them was the worn stomach of the Sea Kings. The Navy who witnessed all this was stunned. The pirate ships that were in full swing and bombarded each other at the last moment were actually solved by this weirdo at this moment. The sea, which had rang out with cannonades and shouts half a minute ago, became silent at this moment. What a terrible little brother, Daijinhao. Kizaru stood on the bow of the warship at some point, pouted and said in surprise. But Kizaru's yellow eyes were full of shock. Mr. General, that man sank the pirate ship. Mr. General, the steel knife pirates who killed him with one strike. Mr. Pulsolino. The Navy was shocked one after another. On the suddenly quiet sea, Mo Li inserted the knife into the waistband of his trousers again. Seeing that the group of people were surrounded by a man dressed in yellow, he asked loudly, "Hey, Uncle Yellow, can you take me for a ride?" Chang. As soon as Mo Li finished speaking, the noisy warship suddenly became quiet, and everyone looked at the yellow monkey nervously. The yellow uncle. Is he in General Kizaru? He is called General Huang Yuan again. Because the entire warship is yellow in yellow. Seeing that the group of people stopped talking, Mo Li resisted the urge to slash with a knife. After all, there was only one boat left. If it was cut, he would have to run away again. Li Mo had to reiterate the conditions. Look, I have eliminated your opponents, so I can count as helping you, so can you take me for a ride now? Huang Yuan was stunned for a moment, and finally confirmed that he was calling himself, and it was no wonder that Huang Yuan was dumbfounded. No one had ever called him the title of Yellow Uncle, The Japanese ape who reacted nodded. You put down a ladder and let him come up. Mowgli frowned as he saw that the group of people hadn't moved. He wondered if he had robbed their boat, but he couldn't drive it. He suddenly saw that the ladder had been put down on the boat. No, I'll just jump on it. After shouting, Mowgli tapped the sea with his toes and appeared on the deck of the warship in a flash. Mowgli just stood on the deck, feeling down to earth. He smiled at the yellow monkey. Thank you, Uncle Yellow. Huang Yuan tilted his head and pouted. Are you very yellow? Chapter 3. How are you treated? Yo, little brother running. I'm not an uncle, my name is Pelusalino. Kazuna said with a wretched smile. Limo blinked, nodded and said, Hello, Bora Carino, my name is Limo. Yes, Pulsalino, Kazaru patiently corrected Limo. Lili said seriously, well, Pelucalino. Pelusalino, Kazaru said word by word, biting his voice. Mowgli licked his lips, wrong again. When I got on someone's boat, I could even call their name wrong, but it was not very polite. This time, I said slowly, and Mowgli, who had made up his mind, also learned to say it word by word. Bo tilde lu tilde ka tilde lu tilde nuo tilde. Kazaru's face changed and he shrugged. Call it whatever you want. Li Yishi was overjoyed. Okay, Lao Sa. Yellow ape. Huang Yuan, who was sitting on the chair again, looked at Mowgli, who was also sitting on the deck, and said with a smile, Little brother, where did you come from? The ancient East, Li Mo said. East? Is it the East China Sea? Almost. Li Mo nodded without revealing any further information. What a miraculous little brother, who can actually run on the sea, a devil fruit person. Kazaru flirted with Mowgli. What is a devil fruit? Fruit eaten by devils, Li Mo asked with a frown. Well, forget it, with your strength, you don't need to eat that thing, you can't swim if you eat that thing. Mowgli was surprised, can't swim. Then how do you fish? Mowgli didn't say a word, and it was natural for Huang Yuan to continue to test, and ordinary people were just fine. The fluttering sword of this young man in front of him was clearly the strength of a great swordsman. In the cafeteria on the warship at noon, Mowgli generously rubbed the rice, and the delicious food made the chef base of the warship ruined. Usually, these gangsters think this is not delicious, and that is not delicious. What delicious food can be found in the sea? Nutritional balance is important, always eat meat sooner or later to septicemia. Now this kid who is on the boat is eating without raising his head, and the broccoli and beef brisket is served with rice, which is the 8th serving. Boy, do you want another serving? Bass, a burly man with a chef's hat, said standing in front of Li Kie. Okay, 2 more, Mowgli said vaguely while chewing on the rice. Ha ha ha, okay, it's all for you, starve those bastards to death. Beth laughed and went to get food for Mowgli. The remaining group of Marines looked at the hill-like bass with dark faces. A group of people looked at Mowgli, who was enjoying his meal, and swallowed. A sailor approached boldly and asked, Brother, is this meal really so delicious? Li Mo nodded. Well, it's much stronger than the sea beast. Sea beasts. Brother, are you talking about sea kings? Have you ever eaten sea kings? It turns out that they are called sea kings. I don't always eat them. The main thing is that there is nothing on the island, only sea kings, so I ate them for a few days. Are all islands of the Sea King? The Navy scratched his head. Is there such an island? Yes, there is an island on the side where I ran over. After Li said, he continued to cook. The sea soldiers are a little confused. Isn't the direction this guy ran from in the windless belt? In other words, he lived alone on the island for more than 10 days, eating sea kings every day. The sea soldier asked curiously, then how did you catch it? Ah, fishing. While eating, Mowgli casually talked about how he fished sea kings in the windless belt from beginning to end. All the sailors in the cafeteria, including some generals, were listening to what Li Mo said, and their faces were slowly filled with shock. This is the first time I've seen a sea king using myself as bait. They never seen Molly cut off a pirate ship with a knife. This group of people will definitely think that Molly is bragging, but 2 hours ago, Molly that shocking knife, everyone still vividly remembers it. What are you doing? Eat it. If you waste food, I'll report it to General Pelusolino. Chef Bass's loud voice pulled everyone back from their shock. Everyone hurriedly bowed their heads to eat. Although the general was a little out of tune, the law of survival at sea was still extremely concerned. Come on. It's 2 meals, and I've added extra brisket on purpose. Eat it, lad. Beth was holding a large plate of rice in one hand, all brisket on top. Thank you, Mr. Chef. Molly thanked Bass with a smile, then continued to cook. In the warship's office, Kizaru was smoking a cigarette and listening to his subordinates' reports. I see, you go. Huang Yuan exhaled a cigarette and said softly, young people today are really scary. They use themselves as bait to fish for sea kings. And it's all a knife. It's also a knife to chop a ship in the morning. It's not a capable person, that's a great swordsman. Do you want to be recruited into the Navy and become your subordinate? Seeing his appearance, he knows very little about the outside world. Wind belt, I don't know what a devil fruit is, In fact, it is not surprising that Kizo thinks so. There may be many swordsmen in this world, but there are very few great swordsmen. Although there are many swordsmen in the Navy, and Kizaru is also a swordsman, there are no great swordsmen. As for Huang Yuan's desire to call Molly into the Navy to be his subordinate, it is also easier to understand. There are also many factions in the Navy. The 3 generals, Sengoku and Karp all have their own factions. And the Warring States period is also old. He belongs to the previous generation of the Navy, and he will retire in a few years. Therefore, he will naturally be selected from the generals who will take over the Admiralty. Although Kizaru will not compete, it will be after the new marshal takes office. Retain enough status and right to speak. Molly, who was full, leaned on the mast to blow the sea breeze, got on the boat, and had to think about what to do next. The world doesn't seem to be very peaceful, and the weapons are a bit old, and the old saw the devil fruit I mentioned. I couldn't swim after eating it, which was really scary. At this time, Huang Yuan walked over with his hands in his pockets, and Molly greeted him, Hi, Lao Sa. Huang Yuan's eyelids twitched, and he sighed inwardly. Forget it, call it whatever you like. He walked up to Molly and said with a smile, Little brother Molly, where are you going next? I don't know, I haven't thought about it yet. Molly scratched his head. Just find an island with people, find a job to earn money, and always be able to eat enough to survive. Hearing what Molly said, the eyes of the yellow monkey lit up under the sunglasses. In other words, don't you have a place to stay yet? Yeah, Mom and Dad are too far away, and I don't know if I can go back. Speaking of this, Molly was a little sad, and when he came here suddenly, Mom and Dad might be in a hurry. Kizaru paused slightly and said, Well, since you have nowhere to go, how about joining the Navy? Navy. Molly looked at Kizaru suspiciously. Yeah, the Navy, you don't have a place to go anyway, so you might as well follow the old man. The Navy's work is very stable. You can eat, drink tea, and sleep when you have nothing to do. When you have a task, you can catch pirates. It's very easy. Say your work status. Navy, is it to be a soldier? No, being a soldier is a bit tiring. I don't want to train. Molly shook his head and rejected Kizaru. Kizaru chuckled. Daijinhao still uses training. So he said, It's okay, the old man is an admiral of the Navy, and I specifically approve that you don't need to train and are directly under my subordinates. Molly thought about it. Anyway, he is not very familiar with this world now, and he has no place to settle down. It is also a good choice to be a soldier, and Lao Sa said that he is a general. It seems that he has a high position and is very powerful. Try it out. If it doesn't fit the big deal, don't do it, and you can get a salary. How is your treatment? After thinking about it for a while, Limo finally made a decision. Benefits. Huang Yuan thought about it and said, manage the food, control the house, and pay a generous salary. Chapter 4. Family Building. The next morning, Molly stretched a lot on the bed, and then got up lazily. The bed is so comfortable. Molly, who had slept on the rock for more than 10 days on the island, returned to the bed again, which made him greatly satisfied. Yesterday, I promised Lao Sa to be a soldier, and I got the military uniform that night. Putting on a sleeveless military uniform and a navy cap, and finally slung the knife around his waist, Li Qian looked in the mirror and nodded with satisfaction. What a handsome young man. Yo-Yo Dada walked to the deck, and at a glance I saw Kasaragi with Erlang's legs crossed, his mouth pouted, a cigarette in his mouth, and bored cutting his nails. Limo did some research. This world is not normal. Can a normal person grow more than 3 meters tall? Molly's height of 1.9 meters is already considered tall. Kiwi is not only tall, but his mouth is also a bit anti-human. Can a normal person's mouth be pout like that? Old Sa, good morning. Molly walked over and said hello to Huang Yuan. As for the title of Lao Sa, Kizaru had already accepted his fate yesterday, and he even had some expectations about what nickname he would give Sakaski. Morning, little brother Molly, this dress suits you very well. Kazuna said with a smile. Molly tugged at his collar. It's all right. By the way, where are we going next? Back to the headquarters. This old man's mission has been completed. It's time to go back to rest. This time the mission has tossed the old man's body and bones. Huang Yuan flicked the ash and said leisurely. Limo nodded, agreeing. Lao Sa is so old, and he is still going to sea to perform tasks. It seems that Lao Sa's life is not easy. Limo shrugged, turned his head and went to the cafeteria to eat. 3 meals a day was a habit engraved in his bones. Uncle Bess, I want a meal for 20 people. Limo was already familiar with the head chef Bess yesterday. Beth carried a large metal plate with seafood fried rice stacked high. Come on, Molly, you eat first. If you don't have enough, add more. A man should eat a meal for 20 people. The sea soldiers who were also eating next to them were madly rolling their eyes, and we are not men when we co-authored. Uncle Beth's cooking is really delicious. He boasted, picked up his spoon and started cooking. Beth laughed with satisfaction, and then snorted again when he saw that the other sailors were all small plates and bowls. In the past 2 weeks, Molly has been very comfortable. He slept until he woke up naturally every day, and went to eat when he woke up. After he was full, he could find a place to blow the sea breeze. The yellow monkey ignored him. He usually worked and trained. The Navy also respected Molly very much. After all, they were all people who knew Molly's strength. Finally arrived at the naval headquarters, Marin Vando. Marin Vando can be said to be the safest place on this sea, the strongest maritime military fortress, and the symbol of the strongest military in the entire Navy. Sitting cross-legged on the bow of the warship, looking at the neat rows of warships in the port, the always lazy Molly couldn't help but become interested and curiously observe the naval base of Nuoda. Limo looked up at the top of the building with the word, Navy, written on it, thinking that it would be nice to sit there and enjoy the scenery after eating. How is it? The Navy headquarters isn't bad, right? Kazuna stood behind Molly and said with a smile. It's quite spectacular. Limo agreed with Huang Yuan's words, and then asked, does it cost a lot of money to build it? Don't know. Rao Shikimoto was also bewildered by Molly's twist in his brain. Okay, let's go. The warship docked, and Kizaru led the Navy to disembark. Greetings all the way. Mr. General has worked hard. Mr. Pelusolino. Molly curiously looked around at the Navy who saluted Kizaru. That look and attitude were like seeing his idol. Old Sa, it seems that you didn't lie, you are very good in your unit. The corner of Huang Yuan's mouth twitched, but Molly ignored him. You take Molly to the A2 area first. After Huang Yuan finished speaking to a Navy, he said to Molly, Molly, you follow him first, and then wait for the old man to hand in the task. Oh, fuck you. Limo waved his hands indifferently. Huang Yuan always felt that Mo Li's words were not good, but he couldn't figure out what was wrong, so he pouted and walked to the marshal's office. "Mr. Li, please come with me." The Navy walked respectfully towards the residential area. "What is the A2 area for?" Li Qiye asked. "Mr. Mo Li doesn't know. Marin Fando has many areas. Area A is the residential area of the Admiral, Area B is the commercial area, Area C is the area for naval training, Area D is the residential area for merchants and staff, Area E it's a recruit's dormitory. In the A2 area, most of the residents are the family members of the generals." After explaining, Li Mo nodded. It was the family building. In the marshal's office, Aokiji fell asleep, Cap crunched and ate senbei, and Akainu went to the New World to monitor the movements of the big pirates. Admiral Sengoku put down his pen, looked at Kizaru, and said, "It's hard work, Pulsalino." "Well, it's really hard, so I'm going to rest for a few months," Kizaru said with Erlang's legs crossed, putting down the teacup in his hand. After resting for a few months, Sengoku, who heard this, had blue veins on his forehead. This guy is really leisurely enough to make people jealous. The three admirals of the Navy, one in charge of the New World, one in charge of cruising the Great Route, and one in charge of the headquarters. According to Kizaru's statement that he rested for a few months, he wanted to guard the headquarters and didn't want to go out. Warring States sighed. Each of these people did not let themselves worry. The justice was too much, the laziness was terrible, and there was one who couldn't sleep. "Then let Kuzan go to the New World to replace Sakazuki, and you stay at headquarters." "Okay, then I'm leaving." After saying that, Kizaru was about to leave. Then I'm leaving too, Warring States, I'm going to rest for half a year too." Garp poured the senbei directly into his mouth, sprayed all over the place when he spoke, and left after Kizaru's footsteps. "Cap, you bastard." Warring States looked at the indifferent old man, and there were a few more blue veins on his forehead. Aokiji yawned, pushed the blindfold to his forehead, sleepy eyes, and said lazily, "Pelusalino is back. Then I'll go to patrol the Great Route." Sengoku's face was gloomy, he gritted his teeth and said, "Kuzan. You go to the New World to replace Sakazuki." Aokiji was stunned. "Didn't Akainu just exchange me from the New World? Why am I going again?" "Marshal, I have just returned from the New World." Warring States nodded. "I know." Aokiji said again, "Isn't it Pulsalino's turn to go to the New World?" "He doesn't want to go." Kuzan was stunned and scratched his head. "I don't want to go either." Warring States sighed, rubbed his eyebrows, and said, "I'll transfer Mole and Daubman to assist you and relieve your stress." Kuzan scratched his natural scroll, nodded, and agreed. Chapter 5. Big Sister Spider Legs. Moli was assigned to a small independent courtyard. After seeing the environment, he was very satisfied. He did not expect that the unit would be divided into rooms just after he started work. Moli was a little happy. The needle does not poke. After sitting for a while, I couldn't see the shadow of Kayabu. I looked at the time, it was time for dinner. But where is the canteen? Moli carried a worn-out knife and swayed left and right in Marinfando alone. After a while, he walked to the commercial street. Looking at the dazzling snacks such as sushi, takoyaki, barbecue and so on, Moli was holding a kiwi in his hand. 10,000 berry given. The money should be enough to eat a meal. In fact, Lee still wants to eat in the cafeteria. After all, there is no need to spend money, but this fortress is a bit big, and I can't find where the cafeteria is. After struggling for a while, Moli finally walked into a small shop called Sichuan Roast Pork. Ding ling ling. The doorbell rang, and the waiter immediately burst into laughter, but when he saw Moli, he was stunned for a moment. It's really rare for a third-class soldier to come here to eat. However, he is a guest at the door. Today he is a third-class soldier. Maybe one day he will pick up a devil fruit and become a general of the headquarters. It is not impossible to use a devil fruit to change fate. Hello guest, what would you like to eat? The waiter immediately approached Molly and asked with a smile. Limo looked at the menu hanging on the wall, and then looked at the other tables. Barbecue and beer. Quote. After 5 minutes. Waiter, 2 more. After 3 minutes. Waiter, 10 more. Limo was very happy to eat, and the waiter ran back and forth between him and the kitchen. Just as Molly was feasting, Aokiji sat on the sofa in Kizaru's office and complained, "Senior Pulsolino is really lazy, this year's New World mission is just me and Sakazuki." Back and forth. Kizaru was sitting behind his desk, with a handwriting on the wall behind him that read, "Ambiguous Justice." Kizaru pouted and said in a frivolous tone, "Kuzan, aren't you just looking for military exploits? Pirates from the New World are just right. You won't be exhausted if you need military exploits," Kuzan said. Sakazuki would be more than happy. "I know, Senior, you should retire." After saying that Aokiji left, Aokiji naturally understood what Kasaragi was referring to. Kasaragi and Akainu were the earliest students of Zepha, they were Aokiji's predecessors, and they were still lieutenant generals in Aokiji. At the time, Huang Yuan had already been promoted to general. The Warring States period is already old, and Garp is no longer on the mission. Almost everyone knows that the next admiral will be selected from the 2 men who are in their prime, Aokiji and Akainu, so for the secret competition between the 2, everyone knows it well, and it is natural for the yellow ape to know that for the achievement of being stationed in the New World, the yellow monkey generally intentionally refuses to go. Molly's food is delicious, half-cooked barbecue, poured with sauce, and even with fried rice, it's not too happy. When Li Kie was eating, 2 more people came to the store. "Guillaume, today Tina invites you to celebrate your position as a general candidate," Tina said cheerfully and happily. "Little Tina has also been promoted to colonel, I invite you." Tautu Guillaume smiled slightly, carrying the famous sword Kinpira. The 2 walked to Molly's adjacent table and sat down, talking and laughing. "Nice knife, nice legs, so fierce. Guillaume, with your current strength, you should be about the same as a general, right?" Tina lit a lady's cigarette and asked casually. "A general candidate does not mean that you have the strength of a general, Tina, I'm still far behind," Guillaume said. "You're still so young, and sometimes you get stronger with time," Tina said. The 2 of them were chatting with each other, but Li Kie had finished washing the meal. "Waiter, check out." The waiter ran over panting. Good guy, he even ate rice and barbecue for 17 people. "Mr. Navy, you spend a total of 50,000 berry," the waiter said with a smile. Molly was taken aback. 50,000. Are things that expensive here? Lao Sa only gave himself 10,000. "I didn't bring enough money to eat." Such an embarrassing thing. Molly had the urge to dig out a grave with his toes. Under the smiling eyes of the waiter, Limo slowly took out a stack of berry, and then there was no more. The waiter collected the money quickly, and continued to smile and wait for the remaining 40,000 berry. "Wait. That, little brother, I have no money, otherwise you can go to Lao Sa and settle the bill for me." The waiter was very calm. There is no such thing as an overlord meal in the naval headquarters. Maybe this third-class soldier really has no money, but who is Lao Sa? "Who is old Sa? Your corporal." Limo scratched his head. "Secretary." Right." Guillaume and Tina also noticed this, and were also surprised. Third-class soldiers came here to eat. It seems that their salary is not enough. It should be a stunned young man who has just enlisted in the army. Guillaume smiled charmingly. "Brother waiter, the 40,000 is on my side." When the waiter saw Lieutenant General Peach Rabbit paying the bill, he didn't continue to say anything, and left with the 10,000 berry that was Molly's. Molly looked at Guillaume with embarrassment and smiled awkwardly. "Thank you, big sister Spiderleg, I will pay you back your money." Tautu's smile froze. "Spider legs. Miss." Tina laughed out loud from the side. "Ha ha. Sister Spider legs, ha ha. It's really interesting." Tina's unbridled laughter made the embarrassed Molly even more embarrassed, and said quickly, I'll find Lao Sa immediately and ask him to pay you back. He has a very high position and can pay you back with money. Who is old Sa? Your corporal. Tautu heard him mention Lao Sa just now. Molly secretly scolded. Lao Sa is really bragging, saying that he has a high position and has a lot of face. I have mentioned it twice, and no one knows him at all. If Huang Yuan knew that Molly thought this way, he would definitely vomit blood. The most powerful general of the Navy headquarters, Huang Yuan, your name is Lao Sa, who would dare to think about this general? Molly hesitated and said, it's just a very yellow, tall uncle, very obscene, just cut his nails when he has nothing to do. Very yellow, very high, very obscene. Tina didn't smile anymore, and looked at Tautu, respecting the image of Kizaru flashed by coincidentally. Tina asked tentatively, is he called Pulsolino? Yo, no, Li Mo nodded, it's him. He told me that he is very good in your unit. Now that you know, it's easy to handle. Tina twitched the corners of her mouth. Well, General Pulsolino is equal to Lao Sa. Tautu looked at Molly curiously. The young third-class soldier, with a knife on his waist, was very familiar with General Huang Yuan, and he had never heard that General Huang Yuan had a son. Tautu nodded and said, okay, I know him, and the money is not in a hurry. You can pay me back after you get the salary. Li Mo's eyes lit up. Really? Sister Spider Leg, you are such a good person. Puff. Hearing Big Sister Spider Legs again, Tina couldn't help but laugh. Then I heard Molly say. Then I'll go first, and see you by Miss Spiderleg and Miss Pink. After Molly finished speaking, regardless of the dull two people, they went out of the restaurant. Tina asked Tautu blankly, Guillaume, does the pink lady mean Tina? Guillaume held back a smile. Well, yes, then please, Miss Pink, what would you like to eat? 3 seconds later, Tina's angry cry rang out in the Sichuan roast pork store. Damn third class. Tina is going to kill you. Chapter 6. Running back. The two eldest sisters don't poke needles. They are tall, good-looking, and beautiful. Most importantly, they are kind-hearted. We will all be colleagues from now on, so we need to take care of each other. Molly thought to himself, and walked slowly to his small courtyard. An hour passed, and Molly went back and forth several times. Looking at the neat rows of warships in the port, Molly sighed in the sky. I am lost. Li Mo turned around the port and saw the warship he was on when he came. It was getting dark, and he was sleepy. It's better to sleep first. Lao Sa found that he was lost, so he should find himself. Molly's figure flashed and appeared on the deck. Looking at the clean deck, he couldn't help but sigh. The efficiency of the Navy is high. It only took half a day to maintain such a large warship. Tisk tisk. He found the room where he had slept for half a month, leaned the knife against the head of the bed, and Li lay directly on the bed. The world of lazy people is very simple. No need to think, no trouble, go to work on time, check in on time, and never waste every minute. Molly's pursuit is also very simple. Some eat, some sleep, have a relaxing job, and get a salary. When looking for a wife, it is best for a girl to pursue him, and then he agrees immediately, gets married, and saves romance. Molly slept in the warship, and there were many navies in the port outside the warship, led by Aokiji, who went to the New World to replace Akainu. Report to General Kuzan. After the assembly, Lieutenant General Mole and Lieutenant General Doberman are already waiting in the Chambord Islands. Rear Admiral Chidori saluted Aokiji. Ah, let's go then. Aokiji was sleepy, his hands in his pockets, and he looked listless. 3 large battleships and 1,500 Navy members boarded in an orderly manner. Sengoku stood outside the office, watching Aokiji boarding the ship, thoughtfully. After a while of silence, Warring States sighed. Xiaohei, Kuzan and Sakazuki, who do you prefer? Lieutenant General Crane, the person with the ability to wash the fruit, at the same time as Sengoku and Garp, once chased Tianyasha and Doflamingo all over the world. Current Chief of Naval Staff. There is no doubt that their strength is sufficient for the position of admiral, but their characters are flawed. One is extreme, the other is lazy. Let's see. Well, let's wait and see. There have been many pirates with outstanding strength in the Sea of Chaos in the New World. Virgo reported that several islands in the New World have been attacked by pirates. Hearing the words, Lieutenant General, he sighed slightly. The phenomenon of people turning into thieves in the New World is very common. The 8 Treasures Marine Army in the Land of Flowers is an obvious example. If we rashly intervene in that sea, it will inevitably cause the forest strong rebound from this guy, and we're not ready to go to war with them. Lieutenant General Crane thought for a while and then said, after all, many countries in their place have not joined the world. Inexplicable emotions flickered in the eyes of the warring states, and he muttered, well, the world ZF. Kuzan led the 3 ships toward the chaotic waters of the New World. Check in to get off work. Huang Yuan slowly returned to his small courtyard and brewed a pot of tea leaves from the warring states marshal. Looking at the steaming teacup, Huang Yuan fell into contemplation. Did the old man forget something? Driving on the windless warship, leaving the people on duty at night, the Navy also entered the cabin to rest one after another. Secretary, who is this? Why are you falling asleep? A Navy pointed at Mo Li, who was sleeping soundly. The bearded Navy who was called the Corps Commander looked at Mo Li and said, maybe it's a third-class soldier who just joined the army. He's exhausted from cleaning up. It doesn't matter, let's all go to sleep. Mo Li is a third-class soldier, that is, a miscellaneous soldier who cleans up hygiene. No one will care. There are 2 ways to go to the New World. The first type, the Navy goes to the New World, and with the permission of Mary Joa, walks to the Red Continent, uses science and technology to cross the windless belt, and reaches the New World. The second type, pirates go to the New World, coat the pirate ship in the Chambord Islands, walk on the seabed of the Red Earth continent, and arrive at the New World through Fishman Island. The beginning of the day lies in the morning, and the romance of the morning lies in breakfast. At least Mo Li thought so. Ha ha tilde tilde. Mo Li yawned fiercely, stretched out of bed, put the knife on his waist, and muttered as he walked. Comfortable tilde, get up and continue looking for the cafeteria to eat. Snapped. Open the door. Fuck tilde tilde tilde. Where is this special? Mo Li stood at the door of the cabin, looking at the busy Navy on the deck, the boundless sea, without a shred of wind, and there was a tall man with a curly hair lying on a sun lounger under the mast. Hey, Uncle Curly Hair. Limo pushed the sleeping Aokiji. Ah tilde tilde huh. Aokiji pushed aside the blindfold and half squinted. Uncle, where is this? Li Kie asked. Nani? Mo Shin thought, what did you say? I ask where are you going? Limo frowned and continued to ask, I'm asking you, where is this? Why don't you go? Qingzi was also a little confused. Limo scratched his head, the man seemed to be sick. Uncle. I'm asking, where are we going? No sledge. Go back to sleep. Okay. Limo turned around and left, confirming that everyone in this world is sick. Uncle, I want a meal for 20 people. The sky is big and the earth is big, and eating is the biggest. No matter where you are, you can't delay eating. The head chef brought a large plate of seafood fried rice, placed it in front of Mo Li, and looked at Mo Li with a smile. Men should eat more. Well, thank you, Uncle. Mo Li just picked up the spoon to prepare the meal. The warm voice of the chef came to my ears again. If you can't finish it, I'll kill you. Mo Li rolled his eyes. He was really sick. He only ate 25 caddies of fried rice. How could he not finish it? Under the uncle's warm eyes, Limo finished off a large plate of fried rice and drank 2 glasses of orange juice. He pursed his lips. He was 70% full. Limo got to the deck again, saw that the jicama was still sleeping, and shook his head. This guy is probably not a god of sleep. I have already asked, what kind of ghost mission this ship is going to perform in the New World, and Mo Li can't help but feel a little melancholy. Just half a month into the job, only 2 days after being split up, and after getting lost and sleeping, he inexplicably follows the Navy on a mission. Now, is there anyone more unlucky than yourself? Mo stood at the bow of the boat, looking at the mirror-like sea, without a shred of wind blowing. This feeling is too familiar to Mo, it's a fishing place. According to what the uncle chef said, it's only been 2 days, so it's not too far. If you run back along the sea, you will be able to return to the Navy headquarters in about 3 days, but you can even walk to an island as small as the Navy headquarters. Lost, this sea, not necessarily where to go. Thinking about it this way, Mo was even more worried. How could he be in such a good class? Suddenly, a huge black shadow on the seabed under the warship approached rapidly. Boom! A sea dragon-like sea king that was bigger than the sea kings that Mo had caught jumped out of the water. The 5 warships of the Navy are not even enough to plug their teeth in front of this sea king class. Report to Lieutenant General Mo, a supergiant sea king was found ahead. Report to Lieutenant General Doberman, a supergiant sea king was found ahead. Mr. Kuzan, a supergiant sea king appears. Prepare for bombardment. Ships ready. Chapter 7. Scroll, let's go. Mo raised his eyelids. I'm bored, but I don't have time to fish. Holding the knife in his left hand, he slashed down. The wooden scabbard slashed and brought a strong wind, and a huge vertical air blade passed through, and the sea kings were not only cut in half, but also blown away by the strong wind. Boom! The corpse of the sea king floats on the sea far away from the warship. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel held the knife in a daze. Who was this huge slash? Doberman is already a great swordsman. Doberman on the other warship is also stunned. Is it a flying squirrel? How did he not know that the flying squirrel had become a great swordsman? The Navy on the 5 warships were all stunned on the spot, and the supergiant sea kings were cut like this. One knife. Is this 3rd-class soldier a swordsman? Gosh, he slashed the sea kings in half with 1 knife. Aokiji lifted the corner of his blindfold and looked at Li Kie, who was standing on the bow, bowing his head in thought. Is this guy who asked the way a great swordsman? Li Kie didn't care about the others, and he just sat cross-legged on the bow of the boat while he was worrying about how to get back. Suddenly I remembered what Lao Sa said at the time, that he could be found through a creature called a phone bug. Mo looked left and right, and said to a Navy who was holding a cannonball, "Brother, do you have a phone bug?" The Navy was still immersed in shock, and said dumbly, "No." Well, then do you have it? Mo looked at the man in the cape and the suit over there again, feeling that his position was higher and he should have it. I don't have either. Zidaru came back to his senses, touched his body, and shook his head. Suddenly a lazy voice sounded. That little brother, I have a phone bug here. Li Yi was overjoyed, and followed the voice to look over. Uncle Natural Volume, you are awake. The green pheasant held the phone bug's hand for a while, and was stunned on the spot. Naturally, Uncle, are you calling me? In the blink of an eye, Li Kie appeared next to the phone bug held by the green pheasant, observing the small snail called the phone bug. Uncle Nature Volume, can you call the Navy headquarters as a phone bug? Asked Mo. Yes. Qingzi looked at Mo Li, and suddenly appeared beside him just now. This speed is not something that can be achieved by shaving, and even the shocking knife just now. Who is this strange 3rd-class soldier? That's great, please help me to call Lao Sa and ask him to pick me up. Mo Li didn't do too much, and directly mentioned people. Qingzi scratched his curly hair and asked in confusion, who is Lao Sa? Mo explained patiently, Old Sa is a very yellow, very wretched uncle. He seems to be called Pelosa Lubo. Very yellow, very obscene, Pulsarub. Aokiji nodded and said, is it Pulsalino? Yes, it's him, Lao Sa. Mo Li nodded vigorously, he seemed to understand something. It's not easy to mention Lao Sa, but it's easy to mention that he is very yellow and wretched. Allah, lucky little brother, I happen to have Lao Sa's number. After Aokiji finished speaking, he called Kyabu. And Huang Yuan finally found out that Mo Li was lost. He was a little speechless. How could he be lost in such a big place as Molinfando? The dignified Jonin turned out to be a road idiot, and he was considered to be the only one. Blood, blood. The voice of the phone bug interrupted Kizaru's complaints about Moli. Kuzan. Watching the phone bug turn into a curly hair, with a blindfold on his forehead, and sleepy eyes, who else can be other than Aokiji? Moses, Kuzan, what's the matter with you? On the other end of the phone bug was not Aokiji's voice, but the lost person. Old Saw, come and pick me up, I'm on Uncle Nature's boat. Oh, it's weird, little brother Lee, why are you on Kuzan's boat? Kazuna pouted and wondered. Hey, that's a long story. Moli sighed and invited the two kind eldest sisters to dinner, then got lost again, got on the boat and fell asleep again, and finally recounted the story of being taken away by Kuzan by accident. Not only Kizaru and Aokiji were stunned when they heard it, but even the Navy who heard it around was confused. This is too much, is there anyone more confused than you? After you are full, you can just find a place to sleep. Hey, Lao Sa, come and pick me up. Moli shouted loudly when he saw that Huang Yuan stopped talking again. Huang Yuan was also defeated by Moli's unreliability, and immediately said helplessly, how can I pick you up? Without Mary Joa's consent, I can't go to the Red Earth continent, or you will come back. The eyes of all the Navy, including Qingzi, were focused on Moli's face, waiting for his answer. They heard the words of the yellow monkey clearly, and ran back. Where did they run from? The answer is obvious. Running from the sea is actually not difficult to understand. Aokiji uses its freezing ability and always rides a bicycle on the sea. Limo was silent for a moment and said, it's not that I didn't think about it, but I'm afraid I'll get lost again. Lao Sa, you know me. That's hard to do, otherwise you'll just stay there and come back after Kuzan's mission is over. Old Sa, what do you mean? You said that the Navy has less work and good pay, so I came here. Why did I just go to work and leave for a mission within a few days? Moli's face was full of displeasure. Really, the house that was just split up hasn't lived in yet. The yellow ape on the other end of the phone worm thought for a while, then smiled and said, you don't blame others this time, it's you who went to the wrong place. Besides, you can be promoted to the military rank when you perform the task, and your salary will be higher if you are promoted. Huang Yuan also had no choice but to fool Moli first, otherwise he would suddenly give up, and if he quit, it would be troublesome, and he finally tricked him into the Navy. Yes, the higher the position, the higher the salary. I still owe big sister Spiderleg 40,000 berry. Moreover, the price of Marin Fando is a bit expensive, and the salary is too low to afford it. The 100,000 berry, what position do I need to get a salary? Limo asked again. Moli also had a plan for asking this question. 100,000 berry, according to his food intake, can eat 2 meals, and then go to the free cafeteria to improve the meals twice a month. How did Kizaru know this? He was a major general when he came out of the Navy elite training camp, and he didn't have a lot of salary for these years. This question is really difficult to answer. Kazuna hesitated. Yes, I want the rank of a colonel, yes, the rank of a colonel. As long as you reach the rank of colonel, you can not only get a salary of 100,000 bergs, but also be assigned a cruise ship. Hearing this, Moli's eyes lit up. Good guy, not only did they split the room, but also gave them a car. Okay, I see, what should I do to get promoted to colonel? Well, I can answer this. You just need to catch 10 pirates with a bounty of over 500 million. Aokiji, who was listening to Kayabu flickering all the way, finally got the chance to speak. Is that so? Moli asked in disbelief. The yellow monkey on the phone bug was silent for a while, and said, almost, if you catch 10 pirates with a bounty of more than 500 million, you will not only be promoted to colonel, but you will also be able to return to the headquarters earlier, don't you think? General Kuzan. Allah, was discovered. Kuzan scratched his head, pretending to be embarrassed. Molly couldn't understand what riddles they were playing. Now he just wanted to arrest people as soon as possible, go back to his hometown, get a promotion and a raise and live in a villa. After hanging up the phone, Li Qian stared at Kuzan, and Kuzan also stared at Molly. After a long silence, Li Qian solemnly said in a solemn voice, "Ziliju. Let's go. Go catch the pirates and go home early." Chapter 8. Complaints are not accepted during the rest period. The mission of the naval headquarters to send the generals into the New World is actually very simple. The first task is to monitor the movements of the 4 emperors. There are 4 pirates who rule the second half of the Great Route like emperors, which is the chaotic sea area of the New World. Each of the 4 of them has their own territory and a considerable amount of power. People living in the New World are not very resistant to pirates, and basically hope to be sheltered by one of the 4 emperors. Another task is to patrol and arrest those pirates who have not joined the 4 emperors. Even if they cannot fight the 4 emperors now, they must effectively weaken their power. On Nordfa Island, the fleet led by Aokiji was docked at the port for supplies. Qingzi already knew Molly's strength and knew that he was a direct subordinate of Kizaru. Since he had already reached a deal with Kizaru for 10,500 million pirates, in exchange, what Qingzi had to do was to take good care of Molly. Most importantly, don't let him get lost. "Uncle Jiraiki, you are busy, I will go to the island," Limo said to the green pheasant leaning on the mast. "Okay, but I have to send someone to follow you." Qingzi thought about it. Such a big living person can't be sleepy, so it's better to send someone to follow him, and then bring him back, as long as he doesn't get lost. "Okay." After he finished speaking, Li Qian stood on the spot without any intention of leaving. "Hey, brother, why don't you go?" "I have no money." Molly generously pulled out his empty pocket. His intention was very obvious. Qingzi was stunned for a moment, touched his body, but didn't bring any money, then looked at Chiduru. "Major General Chiduru, do you have money?" "Yes, how much?" Major General Chiduru is a real person. Don't ask if there is any, just say how much. Aokiji pushed the blindfold. "How much?" Borrowing money is a bit complicated, so he said, "Major General Kidalu, you can follow little brother Molly, settle the bill for him, and bring him back, don't let him get lost." "Yes." Zaidalu gave a military salute. Taking Zaidalu, a small human body vault, Molly excitedly went to Nordfa Island to wander around. "Mr. Lieutenant, Nordfa, best known for barley malt beer." When Zaidalor spoke, he was very polite, and there was even some admiration in his eyes. He was the closest witness to the shocking knife that killed the giant sea kings that day, and the terrifying scene where he could cut the giant sea kings hundreds of meters in length with just a single knife was still shocking to him. As a veteran who rose from the grassroots level to Major General, Chidalu knew that even a lieutenant general could not cut that sword. "Beer, I like it too," Li nodded and said. Under the leadership of Chidalu, Molly ate a lot of delicious food. What surprised Molly was that the meatballs on this island were unexpectedly delicious. The owner of the meatball stall is an old pirate who washes his hands in a golden bowl. He laughed when he watched Molly, who was enjoying himself. The meatballs made by the boss are really fragrant." Molly, who grabbed a dozen meatball skewers, agreed with the taste of the meatballs. At the same time that Molly's mouth was full of oil, Chidalu's body was tense, and he looked at the boss vigilantly. He said solemnly, "Duolulu, the deep-sea hunter with a bounty of 220 million, I didn't expect you to be here." Quote. The boss didn't care about Chidalu very much. He laughed and said, "Little brother, I have retired to sell meatballs, don't be nervous." "Don't be nervous, we are on vacation, so don't work for the time being." Molly patted Zaidalu on the shoulder, and then said to the boss, "Boss, the meatballs you made are delicious, and I will sell them well in the future. You have to set up a good stall and stop being a pirate." "Let's go." Molly ignored his boss who was staring at him behind him, and continued to wander around with Chiduru. "Mr. Molly, he is a big pirate." Zaidalu was a little unwilling to give up, even if he is not Dalyuru's opponent. Molly will definitely be able to. Ada, don't be nervous, didn't you say he's only 220 million? Such a little bastard, don't pay attention to him, besides, we are on vacation, don't talk about work. Chidalu was startled, only 220 million little bastards. What do you mean by vacation? We don't have time to eat. While walking around, Li Qian suddenly saw a sign hanging on a pub, unlimited drinking of barley malt beer. Molly's eyes lit up, Oktoberfest. How's it going? Let's go have a few drinks. Seeing the Oktoberfest, Molly was immediately interested. Slow, wait, Mr. Molly, this is a famous black bar on Nordfa Island and a gathering place for pirates. We still report that Kuzan will wipe out this place in the future. Zeidel hurriedly stopped Molly, although I have confidence in Mori, but there are too many big pirates here, in case the car overturns. Ada, we are on vacation, we won't work during the vacation. Limo said and walked over. Zidaru hurriedly blocked it, but it was useless. In desperation, Zidaru had to follow Molly into the tavern. The chaotic and dim bar, with the smell of alcohol, gathered a large number of villains in the dark corners of the pub. Traffickers, pirates, black merchants, and gangsters can all be seen in the tavern. Ding ling ling. As Molly pushed the door and entered, the lively drinking tavern was instantly quiet. It is not normal for the Navy to enter this tavern. In particular, Molly and Chidalu were wearing blue and white Navy uniforms, which were particularly eye-catching in the dimly lit tavern. Navy. What is the Navy doing here? Seeing that the two of them came in, the pirates stopped shouting, drinking together, and watching them vigilantly. Boss, 2 glasses of barley malt beer. Ignoring the gazes of the people in the room, Li Qian walked to the bar on his own and ordered 2 large glasses of beer. Li Qian didn't care, but Chidalu was surrounded by a group of pirates, feeling uncomfortable and nervously looking around. After a few minutes, the pirates gradually turned their eyes away, and Zaidalu relaxed a little. Bang! A drunk old man suddenly slapped the bar and shouted at Molly and Chidalu. Hello, Navy! The one who shouted was a fat, hill-like old man with a gray beard and a strange shape on his head. The Tianling cover seemed to be sunken. Seeing the old man speak, the surrounding pirates watched silently. Zaidalor took a deep breath. This is the green pepper of the cone. It is the 12th generation pillar of the 8 treasures navy in the land of flowers, the green pepper of the cone with a bounty of 542 million. Hey, Navy, I have something to ask you. Green Pepper slammed another punch on the bar, roaring loudly, tell me. Where is that bastard carp? In the face of the big pirate with a bounty of more than 500 million, Chidalu was a little panicked. Although he was a little scared, Chidalu still maintained the qualities that a naval general should have. Pirate, you, don't be too arrogant, Lieutenant General Garp's itinerary, how could I tell you? Ah, I'm in a bad mood right now. If you don't tell me honestly, I'll. Seeing that Zaidalu didn't tell him, Qingzhao directly raised his sturdy arm and smashed it down at Zaidalu. Bang! Green Pepper's fist smashed halfway, and was blocked by Molly's knife in midair. Hey, this fat old man, we are on vacation and we will not accept complaints from pirates for the time being. You can find someone else. Chapter 9, Cosmetic Knife. Li Qian held the knife against Green Pepper's fist, and the still motionless Molly, Gudong, drank a large glass of beer and licked his lips. Fat old man, don't waste your energy. As a swordsman, I usually exercise. Bastard, what are you talking about? When Qingzhao saw that Molly had finished drinking on his own and only spoke to him, he immediately became furious. Retract your fists, clench your fists, arm. Green Pepper's strange strength did not weaken with age, and the dark fists covered with armed colors slammed into Molly. Seeing that the Green Peppers used their armed colors, all the pirates in the tavern felt that this young navy was going to be finished. Boom! The impact of the airflow formed by the collision between the scabbard and the fist spread to form a strong airflow. After a while, after the impact dissipated, the situation that appeared surprised everyone. The scabbard that Molly was holding firmly blocked Green Pepper's attack. Green Pepper glared at Molly, and the veins on his arms burst out. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake Molly 1 point. How is it possible? Green peppers are famous for their strange power. Hey, you're lying. He is the green pepper of the cone, an old-fashioned pirate with 3-color domineering, so he was easily blocked by a third-class soldier of the Navy. The strange and shocking scene made all the pirates in the bar widen their eyes. But at this time, the green pepper pressed all of its strength on the scabbard that Molly was holding, but it still couldn't make Molly shake even a little bit. Seeing that the fat old man was blushing and still refused to give up, Li Kie looked at him helplessly. Fat old man, didn't I say everything? I'm on vacation, don't bother me. Molly's arm holding the scabbard gently exerted force and pushed it upwards, and the green pepper cannonball pressed against the scabbard flew out like a cannonball, smashing countless tables and chairs, slashing back and smashing the walls of the tavern. A big hole. This blow did not cause the green pepper to be fatally injured. After all, Li Kie didn't want to kill him, he just pushed him away. Green Pepper, who was struggling to get up in the ruins, glared at Molly with the same eyes from the pirates around him. His failure just now didn't make him give up, but aroused his anger, staring angrily at Molly, who was sitting firmly at the bar. Leave. Carrying the knife, Limo looked curiously at the white beard that was blown up by the green pepper because of extreme anger. People in this world are a bit interesting, can the beard still be like this? Zidal said in a low voice with some worry, Mr. Lee, this guy is a little troublesome. Limo nodded in agreement, obviously he couldn't beat me, and he didn't leave. It seemed that he would continue to look for scumbags, and his good leisure time was ruined. Ada, I persuade him to send him away as soon as possible, let's drink again. Fatty old fat man, what kind of grievance do you have with that carp? You go to him, why are you looking for us? I said that we are on vacation and will not accept your complaint. Zidalu almost cried, are you trying to persuade him? It's an arch fire. Hearing Molly mentioning Carp's name, Green Pepper got even more angry, and immediately shouted, what do you know, you little boy? Since that bastard Carp smashed my cone, I can't open it again. The treasure in the iceberg, the treasure that our 8 treasures Marines have accumulated for hundreds of years. I can't get it anymore. Bastard Garp. Garp. Lily understood that your head was shaped like an awl, but it was smashed into it by Garp, which means that he was forcibly plasticized by a Navy named Garp. Looking at the fat old man with a face in his beard, he was crying, Molly smacking his lips. He was so old and cried because of the failure of plastic surgery. It's a bit pitiful. Molly walked in the middle of the tavern, shook his old saber, and said seriously to the green pepper, who was almost out of control, fat old man, don't cry, isn't it because the plastic surgery failed, I'll cut it back for you, good or bad. Quote. You, what did you say? Hearing Molly's suggestion, Qingjiao was stunned for a moment, then exploded into a fury. This kid is mocking me, the 12th pillar of the 8 treasures Navy. Blatantly mocking my head. The green pepper, whose emotions were about to collapse, was completely out of control. The top of the sunken head was covered with a dark, armed color. At the same time, the whole person's aura became domineering, completely different from the green pepper before. An invisible shock instantly spread, and many people instantly, his eyes turned white and fainted. It's tyrannical domineering. The green peppers are going to be real. Boy, the old man will crush your bones first, and then go to Carp to settle the account. 8 Chong Fist Profound Truth, no cone dragon. Qingjiao jumped up high, the armed domineering above his head condensed to the extreme, exuding domineering over his body, and rammed towards Molly with a howling gust of wind. The pirates who were watching fled in all directions, and from the momentum of the green pepper, we knew how exaggerated his attack was. Molly pouted, Tai Tu Gong just said Tai Tu Gong, why are you bells and whistles? Can calling the name of the move increase the attack power? Between the lightning and flint, Limo directly used the scabbard to slash at the forehead of the green pepper that was hit by the speed. With a gentle knife, the moment it touched the green pepper's forehead, the green pepper swirled and flew backwards like a meteor. The smoke dissipated, and Molly and Zydalu who stood behind Molly stood unharmed. The tavern was in ruins, and the head of the green pepper was also cut into an awl shape by Molly, and the whole person was stuck on the ground. Passed out. What's the situation? That guy only took a knife and not only defeated the green pepper, but also destroyed the place. Strange, monster. The pirates who climbed up from the ruins of the tavern were dumbfounded watching all this. Look at the head of the green pepper. Is it really slashed back? The legendary pirate with a bounty of 542 million was defeated in one stroke. Molly, who was originally happy because of the successful plastic surgery, heard that this fat old man had a bounty of 500 million, and his eyebrows twitched. This is 1/10 of the task. Ada, go and catch him. Although this fat uncle is very pitiful, isn't a pirate, and besides, he has helped him trim his head shape. Oh. Okay. Zydalu, who was still in shock, agreed at a loss, and walked to Green Pepper, who was still in a coma. He didn't care that his rank of Major General was commanded by a third-class soldier. Molly was holding the knife in his left hand, and was a little excited. He was still 9 months away from going back for a promotion and a raise. Sure enough, Lao Sa was right. It would be easier to catch pirates. Ada, we're going back. Uncle Ziliju and the others should have finished moving the supplies. Limo watched Chidalu drag the green pepper out and put on handcuffs. Oh, okay, Mr. Molly. Zydalu agreed, and was about to leave with the green pepper. Suddenly a playful voice stopped the two of them. Hey, Navy, spewing wild in my territory, like walking. Limo turned around, a tall man with an exaggerated spiky head, carrying an equally exaggerated machete, looked at the two of them with a sinister look. Limo tilted his head. Are you okay, Uncle Spiky Head? Zydalu looked solemn. Maurice with a bounty of 800 million inches. Chapter 10. Can you understand what I'm saying? It's him, Maurice. No, it was green pepper just now, and now it's Maurice. Who is this third-class soldier in the Navy? The moment Maurice appeared, people around him were talking about it. Maurice, the Mad Knife, entered the New World 2 years ago. He first challenged the red-haired Shanks, trying to pull Shanks down from the throne and defeated. Later, he encountered the boss of the 3 disasters of the 100 Beast Pirates, Jin, and was defeated again. Although the 2 battles in the New World were completely defeated, he was able to fight against these people who stood at the top of the world, which is enough to show Maurice's strength. Chidalu looked at the wild man with a big sword in front of him, and whispered to Molly, Mr. Lee, he is Maurice with a bounty of 800 million. According to the information, he is a super powerful man. Swordsman. Limo nodded and said, Crazy Blade. What a strange surname. Chidalu was stunned for a moment, and then explained, Crazy Blade is not his surname, it is his nickname, and it is also the name of his pirate group. Oh, I'm still thinking, where is there anyone with the surname Crazy Blade? Molly suddenly realized. People in this world not only have strange shapes, but also have very strange names. For example, the fat old man just now had a bad name, Green Pepper, so is his son called Red Pepper. Outrageous. By the way, from the very beginning, I've been very concerned about one thing. It's obviously a sword, why is it called Janao? When he first came to this world and met Lao Sa, he said Janao, I clearly used a knife. Chidalu was also stunned. How could such a question come out of Mr. Molly's mouth? After hesitating, he said, could it be called Daohao? Molly looked at Chidalu, who still looked like a normal person, in surprise. You are so talented, can't you be called a swordsman? Molly thoughtfully said, it turns out that it is a world where swords and swords are not divided. Don't ignore me, Navy. Morris, who is nearly 5 meters tall, watched the 2 navies not only ignore him, but also discuss himself in front of him. Didn't he take me as a person? Death to me. Morris raised a huge machete that was longer than his height. The blue veins on his arms were bulging, and the machete slashed down. The huge blade slashed the air and rolled up a violent airflow. "Be careful, Mr. Lee," Zidulu shouted. When the blade of the giant machete slashed on some old scabbards, and the airflow carried by the machete poured down, and the violent airflow hit the ground. The same knife block, different people, different attack methods, but it is the same for Lee Kie. Molly tilted his head, avoiding the blade to look at Maurice, and said lightly, "Spikehead, you are really rude, didn't you see what I was talking about?" Morris was shocked and speechless. This guy, blocked my blade with a single knife. Impossible, impossible, even Jin was not so easy back then. Quickly retracting the machete, Morris quickly retreated dozens of meters, holding the huge machete in both hands, and solemnly looked at Molly, who was standing at will with a lazy expression. He wanted to escape, he regretted provoking this monster, but he couldn't escape. His determined swordsman heart wouldn't allow him to do that. He could be defeated, he could lose, but he could never escape. Since you can't escape, you can only fight. Huh. Morris adjusted his breathing, stabilized his mind, a ray of light flashed in his eyes, and his hands clenching the machete relaxed. The people here are really rude, they don't understand what I'm saying. Molly complained helplessly, saying that he was on vacation and didn't want to work. These guys seem to be incomprehensible. Chidalu understood, whether Molly regarded the Navy as a job, or the kind that would leave work on time and take weekend breaks. He didn't know how to answer Molly's complaints, and he could only laugh with him. Morris here unreservedly gathered all his strength, and the huge machete was covered with a dark armed color domineering. Morris's momentum was strong, and everyone on the sidelines held their breath. Left dowel wheel slash. In an instant, Morris made a move. The slash with all his strength, the incomparably sharp blade, and the blade condensed to the ultimate armed domineering. This knife can be said to explode all of Morris's power in an instant. The huge half-moon slash slashed the air and brought out the effect of a sonic boom. The ground where the slash passed was all plowed. Molly, who was complaining at Zidulu, heard Maurice's roar, turned his head and saw a slashing attack, and Molly was also a little angry. "I said I'm on vacation, can you understand what I'm saying?" With a little resentment that the holiday had been ruined, Lee Kie raised his knife and slashed. In an instant, a white light flashed, Mosley's slash instantly dissipated, the giant machete shattered inch by inch, and Maurice's head was chopped off with his right shoulder. The island was also buried with Morris, and the whole island was divided into two parts, one large and one small, by Molly's knife. The huge roar that split the island resounded through the sky, and all the people who witnessed it were all shocked, and they all knelt on the ground without eyes. On the other side of Nordfa Island, Kuzan, who was sleeping, was awakened by a trembling earthquake. "Are there going to be an earthquake? Report to General Kuzan, and send someone to find out immediately." A navy saluted in a hurry, then ran away. Alas, what the hell happened? Kuzan put down his blindfold and continued to sleep on the sun lounger. Molly's face was sad, looking at the island that he had split under his feet. There was a bottomless crack under the tip of the knife. Scratching his head, leaning over to Chiduru, who had been frightened, he said nervously, "Ada, I seem to be in trouble. You say, how much does it cost to accompany someone's island?" Chiduru, who was slowing down, looked at Molly like a monster, and split the island with one knife, He even cared about how much money he had to pay. The brain circuit of the strong is so strange. Zidalulu grinned, "You don't need to lose money, the Navy will take care of it." "Ah, that's good, there's that 800 million guy who was hacked to death by me. Maybe it's not worth much if he died, even if it's 500 million, Ada, you can testify for me. There is some joy in centrifugal, you see, big units are good, employees cause trouble, the company will handle it." Molly then said, "Let's go, 1/5 of the workload has been completed. After killing a few pirates with more than 500 million, we can go back to the unit for vacation." After killing a few more pirates with more than 500 million, and then clocking in and leaving get off work, Chidalu looked at the leisurely Lee Moli, thinking that he had never heard of it. General Kizaru has a son. Moli walked away. Chidalu looked at the green pepper lying at his feet. He said, Ziji Green Pepper, I advise you to get up and go by yourself, so that I don't have to drag you. You don't have to. Thinking of running, you saw what happened to Morris, too bad. Quote. Green Pepper in a coma, opened his eyes, followed Moli behind him without saying a word, and came out of Morris, and he woke up. I hope Morris can hold back the Navy, and he can find a chance to escape. Unfortunately, his ideals are very full. The reality is very skinny. All the same, no one can resist his knife. Compared with that unfortunate bit of Morris, he is better. At least he is still alive, and he can wait for the land of flowers to negotiate with the world and release himself. Qingjiao looked at the young man walking in front of him, and was secretly shocked. When did the Navy come out with such a young great swordsman? Chapter 11. Mustache and Scara. Moli was carrying 2 big bags of meatballs for takeout, and following behind Chidalu, Green Pepper became Moli's tool person, carrying a dozen bags of snacks in his huge palm. Yo, this is not. Green Pheasant put his hands in his pockets and sat loosely on the box in the port, looking at the strange combination coming over, pointing at the green pepper and hesitating. Zidalu's head is full of black lines. Are the strong people so offline? General Kuzan, this is the green pepper of the cone. Ah, sorry, the head shape has changed, I didn't recognize it. Qingzi's tone was casual. Hearing Qingzi talking about his head shape again, Qingjiao's eyebrows trembled. These bastards. So does Carp, so does Aokiji, especially this snack bastard. Lao Su is the green pepper of the cone, one day. Fat uncle, go to the prison cell by yourself. Be honest, someone will deliver meals. Moli chewed the meatballs and pointed to Kuzan's warship. Okay. The green pheasant is in a dazed state. How could this old guy listen to Moli's words? Go to jail by yourself. Cell. I said little brother Moli, what's going on? Qingzi pointed at Qingjiao, who was led by the seaman, and asked. Oh, fat uncle, he was crying and howling in the tavern, saying that a Navy named Carp beat him up and disfigured him, and then I helped him fix it. Ada said he was a 500 million pirate, and I just caught back. The green pheasant nodded. He knew this. Lieutenant General Garp smashed the conical skull that Green Pepper was most proud of with one punch. So what? This kind of old-fashioned big pirate, if you want to catch it, just catch it. And let someone carry you a snack bag. Moli ate all the meatballs in his hand and said to Qingzi, by the way, Uncle Jiraiki, I also chopped off a spiky head. Adon can testify, I don't know the specifics, I really want it to be very valuable. Quote. What's it called? Moli scratched his head, as if Ada had said it, but he couldn't remember it. Forget it, I can't remember, and this island was split in half by me. Our unit will lose money. This is the key point. Although Ada said that the company will take care of it, it is better to confirm with the senior leaders. Well, I know, don't worry. Qingzi nodded blankly. He couldn't figure out what Moli was talking about, what was the spiky head, and the island was cut in half. It's good, I'm full too, Uncle Zilaiju, borrow your big chair to sleep. After making sure that he didn't need to lose money himself, Mo Shin's feelings were very good. In the original world, he lost a lot of money, so that he had the shadow of losing money. After grabbing a dozen bags of snacks, he boarded the warship and quickly occupied Qingzi's sun lounger, the feng shui treasured place to sleep. He was very envious. Moli went to sleep, and the green pheasant also learned about everything from Chidalu. With just one knife, Maurice the Mad Blade was beheaded, and the whole island was split in half. It turned out that the earthquake at that time was caused by Moli splitting the island. Aokiji's sleepy eyes were a little surprised. Where did the giant ape find the monster, and he was still so young? If it wasn't for Moli who got on the wrong boat by accident, how long would the yellow ape plan to hide? Kizaru's neutral faction has added a terrifying combat power. The story of Li Kie grabbing the green pepper, killing Morris, and splitting the island spread throughout the entire fleet while he was sleeping. Flying Squirrel and Doberman also suddenly realized that the huge slash that split the giant Sea King in half was his. Flying Squirrel and Doberman are veteran lieutenant generals in the Navy, 2 of the 5 lieutenant generals who participated in the O'Hara Slaughter Order. Vice Admiral, there is a huge gap in strength, except for the special existence like Garp. Tautu and Chato need to guard Mary Joa to prevent Fisher's attitude from appearing. Flying Squirrel, Burning Mountain, Strawberry, Doberman, Ghost Spider, Dalmesia, these 6 people are the elite among vice admirals and the backbone of the Navy. On the deck, the Flying Squirrel pointed at Mo Li, who was very sleepy, and curiously asked the green pheasant, "Is that him?" "Ah, that's right, Pulsolino Senpai's direct subordinate," Aokiji said. "Oh." Doberman looked at Mo Li suspiciously. "He has no impression of this person. There has never been a great swordsman in the Navy. How could one suddenly appear, or it is directly under the management of Kizo?" Aokiji looked at Doberman's puzzled look, scratched his head and said, "He seems to be looking for a place to sleep, got on the wrong boat, and followed him. Senior Pulsolino attaches great importance to him." Doberman looked at Mo Li, and thoughtfully, he believed in absolute justice, a member of the Akainu faction, a hawk in the Navy, who dared to scold Shanks when he was at war. In the past 2 years, it is no secret that Aokiji's Dove faction and Akainu's Hawk faction have secretly competed, but why at this critical juncture? Why did the neutral faction of Kyabu suddenly appear with a top-level combat force like a great swordsman, and also appeared on Aokiji's boat? "Don't let people think too much," the Flying Squirrel suddenly said. "A person of extraordinary talent, standing at the apex of this sea at such a young age." Aokiji glanced at him and said, "The one who stands at the top is the most troublesome." Flying Squirrel and Doberman were noncommittal about Aokiji's remarks. The strong are arrogant, and the thoughts of righteousness and evil are all based on preference. If it is a righteous person, it is easy to say; if it is an evil person, such a top-level combat power will be troublesome. Not to mention the direct subordinates of the generals, even if the generals defected from the Navy, it is not for nothing. "Ah, I slept really well," Mo Li, who woke up, interrupted the silence of the 3. "Little brother Mo Li, you are awake," Qingzi greeted. "Yeah, it's lunchtime. I want to ask Uncle Chef to make meatball fried rice with the meatballs I brought back. I don't know if I can." When Mo Li woke up, the first thing that came to his mind was to eat. "It should be possible," agreed casually. Qingzi pointed to the Flying Squirrel and Doberman beside him. "Mo Li, let me introduce you. This is Vice Admiral of the Admiralty, Flying Squirrel. This is Vice Admiral Doberman." Sitting on the sun lounger, Li looked at the Flying Squirrel with Mohawk's hairstyle and a mustache, and then looked at Doberman, who had a serious expression and a scarred face. "Hi, hello, Uncle Bazaihu, Uncle Dasila," Limo said after greeting. "Do you want to eat fried rice with meatballs? I brought back a lot." The Flying Squirrel looked at the scars on Doberman's face, and Doberman also looked at the mustache of the Flying Squirrel. The 2 were sure that this person was greeting them. Flying Squirrel frowned, his face was a little unsightly, but he didn't speak. After all, he was a great swordsman, and the face of the yellow monkey should be given to him. Doberman is not so easy to talk, but he is the one who even the 4 emperors scold. Doberman was about to scold Mo Li when he heard Mo Li say to Qingzi again, "Uncle Ziliju, do you want to eat it?" Doberman was stunned for a moment, his eyes drifted to Qingzi's messy curly hair, and he almost didn't laugh. Seeing Qingzi's expression of helplessness about the nickname, he didn't refute it. Sadasara seems not impossible. Except, Strawberry's unusual skull flashed in Doberman's mind. If Li Kie saw him, what would he call him? Thinking of this, Doberman was looking forward to it. Chapter 12, Mo Li's Navigation Tips. Marin Fando, the office of the Warring States Marshal. Kizaru crossed Erlang's legs, his mouth curled in a strange arc, and occasionally took a sip from the teacup. Sitting across from Kizaru is Sakazuki, codenamed Akainu, who has just returned from the New World. Admiral Crane, the Naval General Staff Officer, took a report and said, "Kazuna, your people were really incredible, not only caught the green pepper, but also killed Maurice, the Mad Knife, and even took Nordfa into two halves." Kazuna pouted and said, "Mother Crane is just an ordinary swordsman. Many people in the Navy can do it." Akainu, who was holding his shoulders, took a cigar and said solemnly, "Stop kidding, Pulsalino. When Moli defeated Green Pepper and killed Maurice, the knife was not sheathed, which was like holding a wooden stick. What's the difference between killing people?" Huang Yuan pouted, lit a cigarette, and said, "Oh. That's right, little brother Moli is really scary." Akainu ignored Kizaru's yin and yang peculiar aura. His eyes under the navy cap scrutinized Kizaru. This guy is a neutral faction, and he is also the commander-in-chief of the Naval Science Force. The timing was a bit coincidental. Does this guy want more say? Warring States tore up a document and threw it to the little sheep at the desk. He put down the pen and looked at the yellow monkey. "You went to go through the enlistment formalities for a recruit in person a few days ago, that's Moli." Kizaru shrugged, admitting it. "That's fine, he'll follow you and teach him well." In fact, Warring States did this for consideration. There are many Hawk factions in the Navy, most of them are Akainu faction, and there are also many Aokiji factions, but they are not divided into various naval bases, and the competition between the two has become more and more obvious recently. At this time, the neutral faction of Kizaru suddenly gained a top combat power, and the two of them were not allowed to think about it. It can also be regarded as a faction force that balances the three generals. At this time, Lieutenant General Crane said something else. "The Land of Flowers has contacted people from the ZF side of the world and is willing to exchange 2 mining islands for green peppers, and the ZF side has agreed." Akainu's hand that was holding the cigar turned red, and the high temperature radiated directly burned the cigar to ashes. Dissatisfied, "What are those people thinking? The pirates should be thrown into the underwater prison, or directly executed." After Akainu finished speaking, there was some silence in the room, and after a long time, Sengoku said, "Contact Kuzan." The dishes in the cafeteria at noon were big bone meat and curry rice. Moli was very satisfied with what he ate. After killing 25 people gorgeously, he lay down comfortably on the sun lounger and took a nap. Next to Moli's sun lounger was the chair where Aokiji was lying, with a parasol standing between the two of them. Moli was very grateful to Chingzi, and felt that Chingzi was a very good person. Knowing that he liked his sun lounger, he gave it to himself. From Moli's point of view, this is a gift and a personal favor, and it must be paid back. Report to General Kuzan. We will enter the hurricane area ahead. The navigator hurried to Aokiji to report. "Ah, it's really a troublesome sea area. Notify the whole ship and pass at a steady speed." Chingzi finished the order, and then woke up Moli, who was sleeping next to him. "Little brother Moli, don't sleep, it will be very bumpy later." Uncle Ziliju, are you going to have dinner? Moli rubbed his eyes and said in a lazy tone. Chingzi helplessly raised his forehead. Is this guy really a great swordsman? Why are you lazier than yourself? No, we're going through a troubled sea and the next few hours are going to be bumpy. Moli didn't understand what the troublesome sea area was that Chingzi said, lying on the chair like a salted fish, whispering softly, what troublesome thing is still disturbing my sleep? It's a hassle. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sunny weather suddenly turned gloomy and raindrops fell on the umbrellas. Aokiji pointed to the front and said, the sea area ahead is a hurricane area. There are dozens of hurricanes at sea all year round. The currents are strange. If a ship enters rashly, it will be torn to pieces if it is not careful. Limo scratched his head. Are you saying that dragons absorb water? Moli got up helplessly, and muttered as he walked, you guys are making a fuss, the dragon just sucks water, and it's been played well on TV. Fuck, Undersea Dragon Palace exploded. This is where the dragon sucks water, it's like the dragon vomits. Limo saw the sea in front of him, lightning and thunder, howling winds, and chaotic ocean currents. In that sea area, dozens of huge waterspouts were gathered to reach the sky, constantly rolling over each other and spreading out to regenerate new hurricane tornadoes. Limo looked at the raindrops that kept falling, and looked at the sun loungers worriedly. If they really passed through here, the sun loungers wouldn't get wet. Just got the gift, but the baby is tight. Uncle, let's take a detour. Aokiji shook his head. No way, little brother, we have to go to Dom Island at the agreed time. If we take a detour, it will take a few days. Ah, Moli scratched his head and said reluctantly, then uncle, hurry up and use your little sailing skills. Aokiji was stunned. What sailing tips? There are navigators on board, I don't have any tricks. Seeing the green pheasant staring blankly at him, Moli frowned when he saw that the sun loungers under the umbrellas were in danger. Forget it, you don't come and I come. Saying that, Moli took 2 steps and stood in front of Qingzi. Qingzi looked at Moli suspiciously. What was he doing? From the beginning, little brother Moli has been talking about sailing skills. What kind of skills? Moli solemnly watched dozens of hurricane waterspouts collide with each other, and the thick black clouds above the sky flashed with lightning. Be hard. Huh, Moli exhaled, holding the scabbard in his left hand and the hilt in his right hand. Warehouse. It was the first time that Moli's sword came out of its sheath since it came to this world. Shun holds the long sword and slashes horizontally with one blow. Brush. A white slash across the sea illuminated the sky, shot straight into the sky, split the gloomy dark clouds, and split dozens of hurricane tornadoes. As the last turbulent airflow dissipated on the sea in front returned to calm. The huge wind tornado just now, the lightning and thunder were like a dream. The sky was cloudless at this time, and the sun was shining again on the somewhat damp deck. Moli put the knife in the sheath, looked into the distance, and determined that after there was no Dragon Palace explosion incident, he happily returned to the sun lounger. Uncle, call me for dinner. Alara, this is simply, it is a miracle. Rao is a naval admiral like Kuzan, a man standing at the top of the world, who was also shocked by Li Qia's small sailing skills. I was cut off by Mr. Moli. With a knife, the climate of nature has been changed. Doberman was on the bow of the warship next to him. He watched with his own eyes that the hurricane area that had been raging all year round was dispelled by Moli. He was not sure if this was a power that humans could achieve. It was incredible. Warring States put down the phone bug, glared at Kizaru, and asked, is that the ordinary swordsman you call him? Chapter 13. Destroy it, my heart is too tired. Dom Island is a beautiful island that is like spring all year round. Due to the distribution of many small islands and towering reefs around it, Dom Island is also called Dom Islands. Dome Island has a pleasant climate, lush vegetation, golden sandy beaches, especially in the early morning fog, and the towering reefs in the distance are hidden in the fog, looming. Limo had the feeling that he was standing on the top of Mount Tai at 4 in the morning. Moli couldn't help but sigh. It's a great place. Woo, stinky dad, I'm so worried about you, woo. The beach is beautiful too, and shells. My son, dad's head is ready, we can go get the treasure, woo woo. This place is not much stronger than any Shawenyi. It's great, it's really great, our 8 treasures. Moli turned his head expressionlessly and looked at the beach in the distance. Green Pepper knelt on the ground and hugged his 2 sons. The 3 of them wept bitterly. I'm sick, I cry and laugh now and then, my tears are like a small fountain. Limo turned and walked elsewhere for a stroll. This small island really attracted him. Moli left, and no one paid attention. Flying Squirrel and Doberman were guarding the fleet of the 8 Treasures Navy in the open sea, and only Aokiji's warship entered the port of Dom Island. Hey, Green Pepper, since the deal has been reached, give me the permanent pointers of the 2 mining islands. Green Pheasant looked at Green Pepper and said lightly. Although making a deal with the pirates made him very uncomfortable, but since the high-level decision has been made, he has no choice. Mine Island. What Mine Island? Qingjiao was stunned, and flashed in his mind 2 islands north of the Land of Flowers, an iron ore island, and a more precious uranium soil mine. Green Pepper clenched his teeth, squeezing a few words between his teeth. It's not the 2 islands, is it? Lao Kai's expression was decadent and he nodded helplessly. They only want those 2 islands. That is the precious island on which the country of flowers lives. Old man, poof. Green Pepper attacked his heart with anger, spit out a mouthful of old blood, and passed out on the beach. Aokiji looked at them blankly, waiting patiently for them to finish the show. To survive, with the industrial level of your country, if you can mine it, do you still need to raise pirates to loot the wealth? Here, Qingzi is watching the exaggerated performances of the 3 movie emperors, and his heart is not disturbed. However, Mo Li, who was alone, was lost. Looking at the surrounding scene, Mo Li scratched his head. Have I been here just now? Is the town in the opposite direction? 10 minutes later. Did I come here just now? Forget it, let's go to the beach first. Li Mo looked for a direction and didn't look back. A young man was kneeling on the beach, retching in disgust, and in front of him lay a small opened box. This devil fruit is really unpalatable, hee. The power is coming. The man knelt on the beach, shouted up to the sky, and then showed a hideous smile on his face. I am no longer the unknown Abdul, I am the great armadillo Abdul. Start from the small town, kill them all first, then go to sea. I want to make the world feel pain. Abdul abruptly stood up from the beach, his whole body swelled several times, and after a few seconds he turned into an armadillo with a height of 4 or 5 meters. This is the power of Uncle Abdul. I'm going to crush them. I saw Abdu, the armadillo, with a rickety figure, shrinking into a large sphere with a diameter of more than 1 meter, rolling and rushing towards the forest at high speed. At this time, Mo Li finally got out of the forest and pushed aside the dense grass several meters high. Before Mo Li could be happy, he saw a ball-shaped thing rushing towards him. I'm going. What? Bang! Mo Li was startled. He just kicked at the ball, and Abdu the armadillo took Mo Li's foot firmly, and instantly rose into the sky, soaring into the sky. Wow! Fly so high! Mo Li looked at the ball that turned into a star and nodded in agreement. Yes, it's so tall. Who's talking? Mo Li was stunned for a moment, and followed the voice to look over. What the hell? The seafood is talking. Where has Mo Li seen a murloc? He has not been in the One Piece world for a month, and he has never even seen a capable person. Suddenly, he saw an octopus talking, and he thought it was a monster. The murloc who ran out of the Fishman Island without permission and came to play on land, hid by the grass. He witnessed the whole process of Abdu using the Armadillo Devil Fruit ability to experience the card for 1 minute. Seeing that this man could kick people so far with 1 kick, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. When he was discovered by Mo Li, he panicked and wanted to explain that he knew that these humans liked to catch them up and sell them. Hey, I'm not. No, I'm. Bang, fuck you. Mo Li is accustomed to being sick. It doesn't matter if you are or not, it's just a kick to go up and become a little star. Mo Li let out a long sigh of relief. What kind of world is this? Even if people look weird, now even seafood can speak. Sure enough, the story my grandmother told when I was a child is true, and there are real monsters in the outside world. Just when Li Qiye was thinking about how the seafood became refined, the big tree in the forest behind him collapsed and a roar sounded. Despicable Abdu, how dare you steal my devil fruit? My 100 million, I will crush him to death. Roar. Li Mo turned around. The big black bear talks again. Bang. Black bear demon, you also turned me into a star. Mo Li's 3 views are about to collapse. How come there are so many monsters in this world? I'd better hurry up and go back to the uncle of the jukebox to ask, what the hell is going on here? The monsters invaded the human world. After running for a few minutes, I finally saw Green Pheasant and Green Pepper from a distance. Before Li Qian could say hello, he saw the huge Green Pepper, whose body was in a half-squatting position, suddenly burst out, and the all head above his head slammed into the Green Pheasant. Bang! The Green Pheasant was shattered into ice slag under Moli's shocked gaze. I am Nima. Moli's eyes widened, thinking to himself, Uncle Ziliju died so thoroughly, he's turned into scum. The fact that the Green Pheasant was smashed into pieces has not been accepted yet. He saw the pile of broken ice moving again, slowly condensing into a human shape, and slowly turning into a Green Pheasant. Finally, with a wave of the Green Pheasant, the Green Pepper turned into an ice sculpture. Moli stared at the change between the breaths in astonishment. A ball that can roll by itself, seafood that can talk, and a black bear demon that can talk. Now even the uncle of the Hikama is an ice demon, fuck it. It turned out that I came to a world where demons are rampant. After the Green Pheasant subdued the Green Pepper, he saw Limo on the beach in the distance looking straight at him. Ching Pheasant greeted with a smile, yo, little brother Moli. Limo, the ice demon is smiling at me, and it's also a male ice demon. Destroy it, I am too tired. After greeting Moli, the Green Pheasant scratched his head. What happened to the little brother Moli? Then the Green Pheasant saw that Li Qian drew his sword. Chapter 14. Unmatched Power. Hey, little brother Moli. Kuzan didn't know why Moli was suddenly like this. Seeing the Green Pepper bursting out, he wanted to hack him to death. But he had already frozen him. Moli was holding a thin and light long knife. The straight blade had a pattern of raindrops formed by repeated folding and forging of steel. The cold blade showed its sharpness. As soon as the blade turned, Moli raised the knife and slashed. Suffer to death, you ice demon. Saw. A huge vertical slash slashed towards the Aokiji. Hey. Qingzi looked at Moli in disbelief. Why did he attack him? Although I really wanted to know why Moli attacked me, but now is not the time to say that mighty slash has already arrived. Kuzan kicked away the Green Peppers, the father and son, who had frozen into ice cubes, and stretched his arms forward. Ice cubes, Storm Pheasant mouth. The front end of Kuzan's arm condensed into a huge ice block and the giant bird charged towards Li Qian's slash. Warehouse. The mouth of the pheasant was cut into two by the slash, and the slashing momentum continued, and it had already reached the front of the Green Pheasant. Ching Pheasant is not Chaozi, and without the most expensive body in the world, even if he has it, he can't stop Moli's knife. Elementalization. Boom. The slash smashed the Green Pheasant and flew straight to a towering reef. Boom. The reef was flattened, the slash broke through the sea, and it flew straight to the sky. The broken ice recondensed, and Qingzi looked at Moli solemnly. When the knife slashed the violent pheasant's mouth and hit him, he clearly felt that the knife had an unparalleled crushing force. If it wasn't for a body that could be elementalized, it might really be impossible to stop it. General Kuzan. Chidalu, who was not far from the Green Pheasant, fell down on the beach and looked at Moli in fear. How strong is Moli? Chidalu knew a little, whether it was Green Pepper, Morris, or the hurricane area, all of them were. A knife. Major General Zaidalu, hurry up and call Pulsalino. I'll stop little brother Moli first, and I'll talk about other things later. After Kuzan finished speaking, his figure flashed and he appeared in the air with his arms crossed. Appeared again, shattered into ice slag and then turned into a human being. Is it really a monster? Limo looked at the Green Pheasant cautiously. He had hacked mountains, rivers, hurricanes, and even people, but he had never hacked monsters to death. If that's the case, all. Moli's blade reversed, and he moved up. Ice cubes. The Green Pheasant in midair took the lead, and an icy airflow erupted from his arms, attacking Li Qian. The huge ice block froze Limo, and Li still kept his upward posture. Damn it! How dare the mere ice demon freeze me? In the ice cube, Li Mo's muscles swelled all over his body. Click, click, click. The ice cubes were full of cracks under the strength of Li Mo's muscles. Alala, I really can't freeze little brother. Double thorn spears. 4 ice spears formed around the green pheasant in midair. Bang! The ice cubes burst, and Molly picked it up with a knife. Mere ice demon, don't be too arrogant. This knife is no weaker than the knife that slashed the hurricane area. The slashing slashes slashed the beach of Dom Island at the same time, and the huge slash went straight to the green pheasant in the air. Can't stop. The thought flashed in Qingzi's mind, and he gave up the attack of the 2 thorn spears, kicked his legs in the air with force, and a ring-shaped sonic boom occurred under his feet, and the whole person flew out and fell straight to the sea. Boom, boom. There was an island split by Molly, and the green pheasants on the sea froze this offshore area, looking at the beach split by Molly in shock. Although I knew that Molly had split the Nordfar Island, but after all, I had no definite senses after listening to Zeidel's narration. Now that I have seen it, it is really unmatched power. Molly looked at the green pheasant on the ice, thinking to himself, the ice demon is very difficult to cut, and the speed is very fast. Since the sword can't kill him, then I will use the blade to kill him. Whoosh! Molly, who was standing on the beach, disappeared in an instant, and in the next instant, he appeared in front of Qingzi, pressing down with the long knife, and the blade pointed directly at Qingzi. Shave! The moment Molly appeared, the alarm bell in Qingzi's heart was a big one, and the shaving one of the 6 styles was launched in a matter of minutes. Boom! Molly's blade slashed on the ice, and the sea frozen by the green pheasants was split open by Molly. Time and space freeze capsule. The green pheasant sent out 2 icy cold air to the extreme and went towards the collection of Molly. In an instant, the cold current surged above the ice surface. Again. Looking at the rushing cold current, Molly swung his sword horizontally, the blade pierced the air, and with a strong airflow, slammed into the cold current was blown away, and the slash flew towards the green pheasant against the ice. Shave, moonstep. Use the moonstep to fly into the air for a short time, and look at the place where the slash below, the ice surface shatters inch by inch, and all the reefs and islands in front of it are flattened. Ha! With cold air in his mouth, Aokiji sighed. I would say that it is the most troublesome for those who stand at the top to go crazy. Zeidalu, who was already paralyzed over there, finally got through to Kizaru's phone. Moses, who is it? What's the matter with the old man? Kizaru's untuned voice sounded. Huang, General Huang Yuan, please persuade Mr. Molly. Chidalu lay on the beach, clutching at the phone bug. Oh, what happened to Brother Molly? Mr. Li and General Kuzan are fighting. Oh, for what? Zeidel was stunned for a moment, and thought about it from the beginning until now. I don't know, it suddenly started fighting. Ah, who wins and who loses? Kizaru seemed very interested in the result. Zeidalu almost urinated. Looking at the destructive battle scene in the distance, Chidalu shuddered. Is this the time to say this? Chidalu's voice was shrill. General Yellow Monkey, please persuade Mr. Molly. It's really troublesome. You bring the phone bug to find Molly. Yes, yes. Zeidalu approached the battlefield between Li Qiye and Qingzi holding the phone bug. At this time, Li Mo looked up at the green pheasant in the sky. It was ice and flying. Indeed a monster. Hey, little brother Molly, why did you suddenly attack me? Seeing that Molly didn't move for a while, Kuzan spoke. Because you are a monster. I've had enough. The big black bear can talk, the seafood can talk, now you can not only fly, but also become ice. Since you are all monsters, I will hack you to death. After listening to Molly's words, Kuzan understood. This guy doesn't know the devil fruit ability person, and regards the ability person as a monster. Just as Kuzan was about to explain, Zeidel's anxious voice sounded in the distance. Mr. Li, don't call, General Polsolino's phone number. Huh, Lao Sa. Molly turned his head and watched Chidalu run over quickly, holding a phone bug with Huang Bu Leji and pouting lips. He knew this, it was the appearance of Lao Sa. Take the phone bug. Lao Sa, your colleague has turned into a monster, and I cut him for you. Monster? What monster? Kizaru was also stunned. How did Kuzan become a monster? He can smash into pieces, freeze people, and fly. What's not a monster? Moli said in a serious manner. Aokiji, who was standing on the floating ice, looked helpless. It seems that this little brother really doesn't know the ability and the 6 styles. The phone worm was silent for a while, and Huang Yuan chuckled. Moli, do you still remember the devil fruit I told you about? Moli thought for a while. You can't take a bath after eating the fruit. I can't swim. Aokiji on the side corrected in time. Moli glanced at him, but did not speak. In this world, he only trusts the yellow ape for the time being. Yes, that's the one. After eating that fruit, you will turn into various abilities, Ice Man, Light Man, Fire Man, or Tiger, Wolf or something, not a monster. Quote. After listening to Kizaru's explanation, Li Kie looked at the green pheasant. The green pheasant immediately raised his hand. Yo little brother, I ate frozen fruit, frozen man. Moli thought about it. In this case, the big black bear is the one who ate the black bear fruit. Octopus is a person who eats seafood fruit. Moli, who temporarily accepted this result, returned the phone bug to Chidalu, looked around, and saw a small island and reef that he had flattened in the south. The golden sand beach was divided into 2 by itself, and half of the forest became bare. Nima. Will the unit take care of it this time? Chapter 15. The Back of the Fate. On the warship, Li Kie was holding a devil fruit illustrated book, and Zitaru flew up and down on the deck, performing 6 moves. Mr. Moli, this is the 6th form, an advanced technique used in combat. Zidal said to Moli. Limo nodded and sighed, it's a magical world. Moli sighed at the magic of One Piece's world, while Zidalu nodded. According to what is said in this book, the natural system can be elementalized and cannot attack the entity. Isn't that invincible? Moli thought of the power that Uncle Chapche can turn into ice, and it will shatter when it is hit, and it can still be assembled when it is broken. It is a bit invincible. Chidalu shook his head and said, no, although the natural system is called the strongest, it is not without restraint. In addition to attribute restraint, there is another ability to restrain the natural system, and that is domineering. Moli raised his eyebrows, sighed Leek. Zidal didn't understand what Li Kie was talking about. He shook his head, ready to demonstrate. As a general who performs tasks in the New World all the year round, Zidalu naturally also mastered domineering. Zidal stretched out his fist, and a black breath wrapped around Cheadle's fist, and his fist turned black. Mr. Moli, this is the domineering look of the armed color. It can be wrapped around the body or weapon to increase the strength and attack power. The most important thing is that it can hit those who are capable. Wow, do you still have this kind of power? It's strange. Moli couldn't help but sigh, this world is too interesting. Zidalu was stunned. Mr. Li can't do it. No, I'll just cut people with a knife. Limo's eyes were sincere. Zidalu, so you pressed General Kuzan to fight the whole time, that's what you said. Chidaru asked again. Mr. Li, can you fly? Limo gave Chidalu a strange look. Ada, I'm just an ordinary human, how can I fly? Ah, what a pity, I thought Mr. Li could fly. Zidalu looked like his dream was shattered. Hey, wrong. As an ordinary human being, Mr. Li can crush a monster like General Kuzan, so what am I? Just when Chidalu and Moli were studying what happened to ordinary humans, Qingji came over, sat on the sun lounger, and said to Moli, little brother Moli, the Warring States Marshal just ordered, Shijima sent a signal for help, you and Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel go. Seeing Qingzi's face with dead fish eyes hanging on it, Li Kie thought he was angry. Moli rubbed his lips, feeling a little embarrassed. Uncle Zilaiju, I'm sorry, I don't know what this is about. The green pheasant hung the dead fish eye and hummed. Ah, is this not forgiving yourself? Molly scratched his head. Uncle Ziliju is such a good man. He even gave him a sun lounger. Maybe he was really angry. Limo said tentatively. Uncle Ziliju, otherwise, I will give you all the credit for the fat uncle and the spiky head. Can you forgive me? Little brother Molly, you misunderstood. I'm not angry, just a little, forget it. A little embarrassed, but Aokiji is really embarrassed to say that this fight can be said to be a fight, but it is not completely fought. It was true that the two were fighting, but Aokiji avoided and was beaten all the way. Ha ha, that's good, I'll say that uncle is not a stingy person. Mole patted Chingzi's shoulder with a hearty laugh. Ah, little brother Mole, just follow Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel, I'm going to the G5 fortress. Aokiji said it again and again, and asked Mole to follow the Flying Squirrel to carry out the task. Limo is a little confused. Should we go? It looks like a lot of trouble. The green pheasant seemed to see what Mole meant, smiled and said, the green pepper yukata is very important, and you have made a lot of contributions. If you complete this task again, Pulsolino will give you a promotion, maybe you can return early. Headquarters. Really? Li Yishi was delighted. If this was better, the house that he shared had not lived in for a day. Well, it's true. Aokiji nodded affirmatively. Okay then, I'll go right over. Li stood up and put the knife on his back, but he didn't move. Aokiji said strangely, what's wrong? Limo looked at the sun loungers and hesitated. Uncle, can I take the sun loungers with me? That's it. Aokiji nodded expressionlessly. Tisk tisk. Uncle Ziliju, you are such a good person. Well, I don't want it for nothing. The credit for the fat old man and the spiky head will be given to you. After he finished speaking, Li Kie put the sun lounger under his arm and walked to the fence of the warship in a few steps. Chidalu hurriedly said, Mr. Li, I will give you. Bang! The warship swayed left and right, and Li Kie disappeared. Put. Speedboat. Ah. Chidalu turned his head blankly and looked at Chingzi. Hee. Just now Mr. Li said he can't fly. Aokiji. Hee. Off the coast of Kezi Island, Flying Squirrel's warship bow, Flying Squirrel and Moli stand on the bow, looking at Kezi Island from a distance. The Flying Squirrel sighed. I have been to Kezi Island before. The vegetation here is lush and the people are very diligent. The sherbet wine in the tavern tastes very good. I didn't expect it to become a town of pirates. Mr. Moli, after we log in, we will investigate first, and then. A gust of wind blew past. It messed up the Flying Squirrel's Mohican hairstyle and also messed up the Flying Squirrel's heart. Moli was gone, and at the same time there was a man running very fast on the sea. Moli licked his lips. There is a tavern on the island in front. Who is so free to listen to you? Limo was walking on the streets of the town. The surrounding houses were all multi-story buildings, and there were merchants with guys on both sides of the street. But the strange thing is that the street is empty. The mustache doesn't mean that the people here are very good. There are many taverns. Where are the people? Moli stepped forward, ready to look around for someone, but at this moment, a figure flashed across the alley between the two small buildings. He leaned back slightly and turned his head to look at the alley, where there was nothing but a few oak barrels. I am Lame. No, my myopia has improved since that day. Moli waited for a while, and after confirming that no one was there, he shook his head, raised his feet and was about to leave. At this moment, another figure flashed across the alley, jumped out of the wall of one tavern, and disappeared into the wall of another tavern. Li Kie put his feet down and stood still in the middle of the street, waiting quietly. About 5 minutes later, there was a faint shadow on the wall of the small alley, just about to jump out of the wall. Moli moved, his figure disappeared directly on the street, and a breeze blew through the ground where he once stood. Boom! Moli's left hand penetrated the wall directly and pinched the figure. I'll just say I have good eyesight. Moli pulled a person out of the hole in the wall. The person was a little short. In front of Moli, who was 1.9 meters tall. He looked like a primary school student. "Ah, you bad guy, nasty pirate." The person who was strangled by Molly's neck struggled violently, his hands tightly grasping Molly's wrist, and his feet kicked. At this time, Molly was expressionless. This person can pass through the wall, and he should be a devil fruit person. Otherwise, how could a person pass through the wall? Fortunately, it was Chingzi who came here, which made Lily understand the existence of devil fruits. Otherwise, this person would be cold. For unknown things, Molly usually kills them first, and then studies them. Suddenly the man stopped struggling, his hands drooped, his feet stopped kicking, and he just hung on Molly's hands. "Dead. It's impossible, I'm not trying too hard." It was dark in the alley, so I couldn't see the man's face, so Molly wanted to take a closer look. As soon as Molly moved his hand, he felt that the person in his hand disappeared, and then Molly watched helplessly as the head of the person in his hand passed through his hand and landed on the ground. After that, the person became a little illusory and directly bumping into his arms. There was no sense of impact. That person directly penetrated Limo's body and appeared behind him. Molly instantly woke up from his daze, turned around, and grabbed the back of the man's fate. "Yeah, nasty. What are you doing, you bad guy?" Molly grinned. Why is she a woman? Chapter 16. 8 taverns, 17 walls. Blue blue, blue blue. Kacha. Moses Moses. Flying squirrels. Aokiji answered the phone while lying on the sun lounger. Kuzan, Mr. Molly ran into Kezi Island by himself, and he can't be found for the time being. Well, it doesn't matter, you don't act for the time being, let him toss first. That's all right. Ha ha, ha ha. The flying squirrel looked at the phone with black lines all over its head, imitating the way the green pheasant was sleeping. Why are these strong people like this? Flying squirrel hung up the phone, turned his head and said, "Go to the offshore area first. Yared uses your ability, you go to the island to find Li Kie." Yes. In the alley, the figure who was strangled again, in panic, shouted a scream that only girls can make. "Yo, it's a girl." Molly picked up the figure, but he didn't expect it to be a girl. His ability to penetrate at will is quite interesting. "You bastard, let me go, let me go." The girl didn't use her ability again, but struggled in midair. "Use your abilities quickly, it's very interesting, you can penetrate the human body." As he spoke, Li Kie turned his wrist and turned the girl's face towards him, and lifted the big hat on the girl's head with his left hand. Long silver hair spilled out, and the girl's delicate little face was full of anger as she looked at Molly. "You bad guy, let me go." "Ha ha, I didn't expect you to be pretty." Molly carried the girl like a silver-white kitten. Looking at his angry look, Molly said with a smile. Suddenly, her hand lightened, and the girl penetrated Molly's palm again. The moment she landed, her body squatted on the ground, suddenly burst out, and ran out of the alley. Molly frowned. Still want to run. That girl was fast, but Molly was even faster. The same posture, the same back stock, but the difference was that Molly didn't grab her this time and was playing with her. Instead, he took the girl and turned slightly, and threw the girl towards the wall of the tavern behind him. Boom, boom, boom. 17 roars smashing through the wall. Under Molly's tremendous force, the girl was thrown away and smashed through 8 taverns and 17 walls. The girl lay in the rubble for a long time. Boom. The girl struggled to open the large slate that was pressing on her, and half supported her body. Ha, ha, ha. The girl lowered her head, panting heavily, and looked at the tall figure slowly walking towards her not far away in fear. She didn't dare to run because she knew she couldn't run in front of this person. His speed, reflexes, his strength, all made her fearful. "Look, it's all said. Don't run, it's embarrassing." Molly approached the girl, looked at her and said. The girl tried her best to recall, this bad guy, what did he say that he should not run away? Molly squatted in front of the girl and looked at the girl curiously. "Are you a devil fruit person?" The girl pursed her lips and said nothing. Yo, it's quite stubborn. Molly smiled, stretched out his big hand, and slapped the girl's silver-haired head with a slap. What ability are you? The girl bit her lip, felt the hand above her head, and then looked at the tall man with his back to the sun. In the shadow, although he felt that the man was smiling, if he was not honest, the palm above his head would definitely crush his skull. My name is Bei Sanchin. I'm the penetrator who ate the fruit of Chuan. I'm from this town. After speaking quickly, the girl hurriedly added, please, don't kill me. Oh, you said earlier, this is all a misunderstanding. I am a regular army, how can I kill people? Molly was righteous, and while standing up, he grabbed Bei Sanchin's head and lifted it up for her, and put it on the ground. Bei Sanchin didn't dare to speak, and cursed inwardly, did you ask? Did you ask? You just grab me and play with it. Molly saw Bei Sanchin lowered his head and didn't speak. He blinked, why didn't he speak? Broken by yourself. Cough cough. Molly cleared his throat and said. Look at how dirty you are. A girl, how can you be so careless about your image? Bei Sanchin, who was only 1.6 meters tall, was standing in front of Molly, who was over 1.9 meters tall. Coupled with Molly's words, there is a sense of sight that an old father reprimands his disobedient daughter. Bei Sanchin was afraid, did not dare to resist, let alone complain. Molly also saw it. This guy really wanted to be frightened by him. Molly touched his chin. Is he that scary? Impossible. Everyone on the warship likes me very much. Well, are you from this town? So where are all the people in town? Bei Sanchin finally spoke. She was afraid that if he didn't speak again, he would throw himself out again. They were all taken away. Molly was stunned for a moment, and then asked, who took it away? Pirates. What's the catch? Do the coolies and build them boats? What do you do shipbuilding? They are going to form a pirate fleet and go out to conquer the world. How many pirates are there? More than 4,000. How many people have a bounty of over 500 million? 8. Molly nodded, just dozing off. Someone sent pillows. No more, no less, exactly 8. Limo smiled. Look, we two have a good chat. Don't be afraid, I'm the Navy, do you understand the Navy? I'm righteous. Ha ha. Bei Sanchin laughed dryly. Is this called chatting in your family? This is clearly an interrogation, and if you were righteous, why did you throw me away and smash through several taverns? If it wasn't for the old lady's armed and domineering body protection, the body would be cold by now. Huh. Limo raised his brows. You don't believe me, and you're complaining about me in your heart. How do you know? Bei Sanchin covered his mouth regretfully after speaking. Oh, it's okay, find something to eat, and when you're done, I'll go catch the pirates for you. After Molly finished speaking, he turned and walked towards the taverns that were not smashed. Suddenly he looked back at Bei Sanchin. Don't run, you can't escape. Ha ha, don't worry, I won't run. Bei Sanchin smiled and followed behind Molly. Bei Sanchin hated this man to death. He carried him around indiscriminately, and then smashed him into the air, and now he would leave. Bei Sanchin, who became more and more angry, clenched his right hand and armed. The dark-armed color covered Bei Sanchin's fist with domineering, and she looked at Molly's lower back. Bei Sanchin followed Molly step by step, lowered his head and thought to himself, Granny Kia said that the lower back is the most vulnerable part of a man. This blow is the best of my aunt. Even if you don't die, it will hurt for a while, and my aunt slips away when I get the chance. Boom. Bei Sanchin slammed into Molly's arms, and Bei Sanchin's nose was sour when he hit him, and his armed color instantly touched. Why did you stop suddenly? Limo scratched his head. You laughed out loud. Let me see what you are laughing at. Ah, yes. Bei Sanchin was stunned for a while, then quickly said, I'm happy that you can help me save my friends. I'm happy. Ha ha, ha ha. Molly tilted his head. This guy is not a fool, laughing is uglier than crying. Let's go and see if there's anything to eat. I'm hungry. Oh, okay, okay. Chapter 17. Why did you come out to disgust me? Signed contract, ask for tickets. Molly held the handle of the knife with his left hand, and put his right arm on Bei Sanchin's small head. 3,000, where is there a place to eat? Molly asked helplessly. Bei Sanchin gritted his teeth secretly. Am I familiar with you? Called so affectionately. Since you want to eat, go to the pirate den to eat. Brother Navy, I know where there is a tavern, I'll take you there. Bei Sanchin said with a smile. Really? Li Yi was overjoyed and said quickly, then let's go. Let's go. Bei Sanchin was also laughing. His eyes were slyly, and while walking forward, he took advantage of the situation to get rid of Molly's arm on top of his head. Hee, eat. I will take you to eat. If I can't beat you, let the 8 bad guys beat you. It's better to die together. I can save everyone, and then I'll be the hero of the town, haha. Hello. Molly grabbed Bei Sanchin by the back of the neck, and Bei Sanchin shivered with fright and stayed where he was. What are you laughing at again? Am I smiling? Bei Sanchin asked weakly, not daring to move. You fucking laughed out loud. Hey, happy. Molly carefully looked at Bei Sanchin's flattering smiling face, let go of his hand, and shook his head. I am sick. You have the disease. Your whole family is sick. Bei Sanchin shrank his neck and gritted his teeth in hatred. Not long after, the two walked to a tavern, with wine bottles painted on the tattered guys, 2 wooden doors swaying back and forth, and the noisy sounds in the tavern could be heard far away. Brother, it's here, you go to the bar, I'll go first. Bei Sanchin slowly backed away, smiled flatteringly, took 2 steps back, and saw that Molly didn't talk or move, and just turned around to run. Crack. The third time. Bei Sanchin can't take it anymore. Shika kills. Come in for dinner with me. Go catch the pirates after dinner. You look very hungry. Let's eat first and then talk about it. Bei Sanchin, who was about to fry his hair, suddenly heard Molly's warm voice, and the anger in his heart gradually subsided. How does this guy know that I'm hungry? And take me to dinner? Molly carried Bei Sanchin beside him, released his hand and patted her head. Let's go, the sky is big and the earth is big, the biggest meal, and, don't run away, just follow me in the future. Well, let's eat first, but the pirates here can. Just as Bei Sanchin was about to remind Molly of the danger here, Molly's voice came from his ear. You have such an interesting ability, it must be fun. It was shattered. Bei Sanchin's feeling of being touched by Molly just now was shattered instantly. Go to hell, is the old lady a toy? With the sound of squeak, Limo opened the door and glanced at the tavern. There were all odd-looking guys with knives and guns on their shoulders. The environment was noisy and the smell of alcohol was foul. Molly walked to the bar on his own, and Bei Sanchin followed Molly carefully. If he hadn't been afraid of Molly, Bei Sanchin would not have come here anyway. The people inside, when they heard someone push the door in, all turned to look at the two of them. Navy. It is not uncommon to have a navy on the island. According to this, not only a large number of navies are enslaved in the port not far away, but the warships have also been converted into pirate ships. There are a few people who are different from the wild pirates. They have neat suits and sullen smiles on their faces. They were looking at Molly and Bei Sanchin. Molly was generous and not afraid to look at it, while Bei Sanchin was huddled by Molly's side. She seemed to be more afraid of those in suits than the pirates. Boss. Wine and rice. Molly patted the table. The bar owner didn't move, but glanced at the darkest corner of the bar. There was a person sitting in the corner, holding a bottle of rum. Gudong, killed half of the bottle, put down the bottle, and nodded. The bar owner just turned around and entered the kitchen, and not long after, he was carrying more than half a plate of pizza and 2 bottles of rum. Molly grabbed Bei Sanchin by his side and pressed it on the chair next to him. 3,000, let's eat. It doesn't matter whether Bei Sanchin eats or not, he is hungry anyway. He ate a piece of pizza and drank rum. Molly smacked his lips. Boss, you're not doing very well, you're far from the uncle cook. The boss was not angry, but sneered, if you have something to eat, you can eat it, and you can work when you are full. The tavern owner means, you're full, it's time to get caught and build a ship. Limo nodded in agreement, yes, when we're full, we're going to catch the pirates, finish the task as soon as possible, go back early, and I don't know if my house has been cleaned. Molly couldn't understand what the tavern owner meant, but Bei Sanchin knew that although she hated the violent navy and brought him here, now she regrets it. This man is innocent, powerful, but it doesn't mean that he is also powerful in those 8 ferocious guys. Bei Sanchin swallowed nervously, pulled on Molly's sleeve, and whispered, let's go. Molly turned to look at the girl who was pulling her in confusion. What was she doing? Why didn't she eat? Aren't you hungry? Hurry up and work when you're full. The bar owner also squinted and smiled at Bei Sanchin. Sanchin, he's right, it's time to work when you're full. Molly was stunned. Yo, you know each other. The tavern owner put down the wine glass in his hand, leaned forward on the bar, and leaned forward. Of course we know each other. The famous troublemaker in Kezi town, Bei Sanchin, how could I not know him? Oh, the king of mischief. Molly looked at the petite Bei Sanchin in astonishment. Bei Sanchin ignored Molly, but said to the boss in a pleading tone, Uncle Xilu, let him go, he is just an outsider, he should not stay here. Hey, what are you talking about? Oh, leave, I haven't finished the pizza yet. Molly glanced at Bei Sanchin, chewed on the pizza, and muttered dissatisfiedly. You, Bei Sanchin was defeated by Molly. Is he a fool? Can't you see the current situation? Ha, he's right. How can I leave before we finish eating? Someone in the shadow in the corner of the bar came out and laughed with a bottle of wine. Molly looked at the guy taller than him with dissatisfaction, full of big yellow teeth and all kinds of gold ornaments hanging on his body. This Uncle Yellow Tooth, are you rude? Didn't you see me eating? Why did you come out and disgust me? As soon as Molly finished speaking, the originally noisy bar suddenly fell silent. Everyone grew their mouths and looked at Molly like a fool. Boom! The pirate smashed the wine bottle on the ground, pulled out the long knife from his waist, and said with a grin, Boy, this is the new world, not a place where your navy can go wild. What happened to the new world? People in the new world are very bold. Molly looked at him in surprise. He. It looks like a young boy. Do you know who I am? The pirate pointed at Molly with the tip of his knife. I don't know. Molly shook his head while eating a not-so-delicious pizza. Damn it. It's a young child. I have a reward of 530 million. Scoff. In an instant, a white light flashed, and everyone in the tavern looked at the scabbard in Molly's hand in horror. At the same time as the white light flashed, the pirate's body was separated, and a large amount of blood spurted backward from the chest, staining the floor over there and the bodies of several tables of pirates. Go. Limo drank half the bottle of rum and said softly. In the case of pirates, just report the bounty directly, without mentioning the name. I can't remember anyway. Chapter 18. The Plan. Dead. Sage, who offered a reward of 520 million, was cut off by him with a knife. Quick, go and tell the big captain. Sage was hacked to death by Molly, and after the group of people in the tavern was shocked, they rioted. Hacked to death with one knife. The silver-haired girl Bei Sanchin, her voice trembling and her expression a little excited. Molly scratched his head. Yeah, if you don't kill it with one knife, you can make another knife. He pointed to the pile of pizza on the bar. By the way, do you really not eat it? Bei Sanchin didn't answer. The words he said echoed in her mind. It's okay, find something to eat, and when you're done, I'll go catch the pirates for you. You look very hungry too. Let's eat first and then talk about it. Bei Sanchin looked at Molly, who was eating and drinking, and at the same time disliked the pizza's bad taste. He frowned and laughed. Maybe he could really catch those hateful guys and save everyone. Limo frowned while eating pizza. The pirates in the tavern basically ran away. He frowned at the people in formal clothes. Didn't they run away? Look at Bei Sanchen, who smirked at him. You laugh, eat quickly, chop them all up after eating, I'll go back when I'm done. Li Mo was still thinking about the house he just divided. Suddenly, a laughter came to mind. Ha ha, sir, is there enough to eat? A man in a black suit sat on the left of Mo Li. He looked at Mo Li and said, Mr. Navy, you are very powerful, whose subordinates are you? Li Qiye put down the pizza and wiped his mouth. It's really unpalatable, isn't it? Looking at the man in the suit, I am the direct subordinate of Lao Sa. Lao Sa. The man in the suit thought for a while, but he still didn't know who Lao Sa was. This man could solve the big pirate with a bounty of 500 million with one stroke, so it stands to reason that he would not be anonymous. Li Mo shrugged and ignored him. You don't even know Lao Sa, what else do you ask? The man in the suit, who didn't want to understand, didn't ask any more questions, and directly stated his purpose. Mr. Navy, we are a hunting team. I wonder if you are interested in joining us. Mo Li smacked his lips, turned to look at Bei Sanchen, who was eating pizza, and asked, do you know what a hunting party is? Bei Sanchen was silent for a while, and his voice was extremely low, as if he was suppressing something. It's a human trafficker. Although Bei Sanchen's voice was extremely low, in the quiet tavern, her voice reached everyone's ears, and of course Mo Li's ears. Li Mo turned his head silently and looked at the man in the suit. His voice was soft and without any emotion. He asked, human trafficker. Ha ha, so sir, you don't know what hunting teams do. The man in the suit looked a little proud. Ha ha, Mr. Navy is a bit simple. Mr. Navy, join us. Your strength is so strong, if we go to catch more rare races, we will be able to make a lot of money. At the table behind the man in the suit, there are also several people in suits shouting. It turns out that, no wonder you are not afraid of pirates, no wonder Sanchen is more afraid of you than pirates, human traffickers, well, interesting, this kind of thing can't be avoided anywhere. Li Mo looked at the man in the suit calmly and said slowly. Of course. The man in the suit had a grim face, and he said sharply, we are not human traffickers who only catch women and children, we are a hunting team, as long as they are valuable races, they are the objects of our hunting, wealth. Women, as long as you join our hunting team, there will be all of them. Quote. Ha ha, that's right, ha ha. The originally quiet tavern became lively again amid the crazy words of the man in the suit. Mo Li quietly watched the people in the hunting team, laughing wildly. Bei Sanchen lowered his head, holding the pizza in both hands but didn't eat it. He didn't know what he was thinking. Are you full? Mo Li's voice was very soft, but it reached Bei Sanchen's ears accurately. She raised her head abruptly and looked at Mo Li's clear but implicitly angry eyes. Tilda. Okay, let's go. Mo got up, took Bei Sanchen's hand, and walked outside the tavern. The actions of the two caught everyone's attention, and the man in the suit said regretfully, hey. Little brother, if you want to join in, just come to me. My name is. Mo Li had already left the tavern. He chuckled lightly, ha ha. I didn't need to mention the name, I can't remember it anyway. Mo Li pulled Bei Sanchen to stand outside the tavern, listening to the commotion in the tavern, wishing that someone died didn't make them feel scared. 3000, don't you think the food in the tavern is unpalatable? Mo Li asked. Yeah, Bei Sanchen didn't know why Mo Li suddenly said this, but nodded anyway. In the tavern, do you think I will join them? Li Mo asked again. Bei Sanchen bit his lower lip, lowered his head, hesitated, and shook his head. Well, I won't join them. Mo Li seemed to know Bei Sanchen's answer. He nodded slightly and let go of Bei Sanchen's hand, holding the scabbard. Because number 1 on my hated list is the human trafficker. Li Qiye held the scabbard and looked indifferently at the dilapidated small building and the noisy tavern. Then die. The scabbard pressed down, and the wooden scabbard pressed against the air in the air, producing a roaring sound. Boom, boom. Different from the sharp slashes that Molly had cut in the past, this slash was heavy and full of oppression. A huge slash crushed the already dilapidated tavern. The slashes dissipated in the air while crushing the tavern to ruins. Limo smiled slightly. It's better if you look at it. Bei Sanchin stared blankly at the ruins in front of him, and when he was stunned, he heard Molly say, let's go catch the pirates. Ah, good. Besides, Bei Sanchin was shocked. He was very happy. This guy is very good at swordsmanship. One of the 8 captains, Sage, who offered a bounty of 520 million, solved it with one knife. Brother Navy, I think if we plan, there is still a chance to deal with the other 7 people. Bei Sanchin, his eyes were shining, as if he saw a savior. Plan? Molly asked inexplicably. Yeah, we have to have a plan. Although you are very strong, if they join forces, you may not be able to deal with it, eldest brother. Although Molly is very strong, she still doesn't quite believe that he alone is the opponent of the other 7 pirate groups. A plan? I have it. How could I not have a plan? Limo said with certainty. Really? Bei Sanchin was a little skeptical. With her knowledge of Molly for an hour, he was a reckless man. How could he have a plan? I do. Let's go. Ah, really? Well then, I'll take you there. When the time comes, we'll be divided into 2 groups. 3,000, you are too long-winded, but it's time to follow my plan. The 2 noisily walked farther and farther, and after a while, a man wrapped in a large cloak stood in front of the tavern that was cut into ruins by Molly. Blue. Kacha. Yared, have you found Mr. Lee? Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel, I found it. Sai Chi, who offered a reward of 520 million berries, was killed by Mr. Molly. Now they have gone to the North Shore. I see, I'll go to support immediately. You follow Mr. Molly. As ordered. Kacha. Chapter 19. Don't say it anymore, just follow the plan. The port of Kez Island, on the north side of the island, has 3 large shipyards, but it has now been occupied by 8 pirate alliances that have just entered the New World. Bei Sanchin and Molly squatted behind a rocky area. Look, Molly, they are all there. Bei Sanchin pointed to the front. Limo looked in the direction of Bei Sanchin's fingers. On the shore of the port, there are countless people carrying wooden boards and baskets of iron materials to 5 large ships, and there are many people on the large ships, waving hammers and beating constantly. The people who get on the ship to transport the materials and the people who get off the ship and continue to load the wood are like conveyor belts, doing things in an endless cycle without sleep. All the people who work are numb in their eyes and do things mechanically. Boom. A shirtless man fell overwhelmed and fell. A basket full of iron nails in the frame on his back was scattered all over the floor. Many iron nails were directly stuck on the man's body, and the man instantly turned into a bloody man. HMPH. Bastard. How dare you be lazy? A pirate with a big knife ran away and kicked the man on the head. Tell you to be lazy. Tell you to be lazy. 1 foot. The nails stuck on the man's body were kicked into his body one by one. The man didn't struggle, didn't shout, his eyes stared blankly at the blue sky, and there was a pool of bright red blood on the ground. The people who passed by him also carried a load of iron nails on their backs. They didn't look at the man, because this man was not the first, let alone the last. He was very lucky. He could die now, and it will be used as a sacrificial flag until the day the pirates set sail. Molly frowned and looked at the port not far away, and looked at the 3,000 who bit his lower lip and burst into tears. He didn't know what to say. He thought about it. Should he condemn them first, and then go out and hack them all? Molly was about to speak when he heard a gnashing sound coming from behind the reef behind him. These pirates, damn it. This is me as a navy. Serious dereliction of duty. What the hell? Who the fuck is stealing my words? Molly turned back angrily, and saw the flying squirrel leading a group of navy, all sneaking behind the reef, looking at the port with fiery eyes. Uncle Bazaihu, why are you here? I was afraid you would get lost, so I sent Jared to follow you." What the flying squirrel said was, of course, there was nothing wrong, but Molly was covered in black lines. No one should know about the fact that he didn't recognize the road. How could he leak the rumors? "Forget it, Mustache, just in time for you to come. My plan needs your participation." Flying Squirrel walked to Lee and Sanchin's side. Molly patted Bei Sanchin on the back. Sanchin stopped crying, looked at Molly and nodded. Now she is very confident, she is a capable person, and can be too color domineering. Molly is stronger than herself. Now Lee Kia's helper has also come. This time they will be able to rescue the people in the town. Seeing that Bei Sanchin stopped crying, Molly pursed her lips. This girl looks so beautiful with pear flowers and rain. Flying Squirrel lowered his eyebrows as he stared at the silver-haired girl, without saying any plans, and couldn't help coughing twice. Cough cough. That Mr. Molly, tell me about the plan. Oh, it's like this. My plan is divided into two parts. The first part, I rush out and hack the pirates to death. The second part, you go out to save people. Flying Squirrel continued to look at Molly, waiting for his next words. Bei Sanchin also widened his eyes, waiting for Molly's plan. Molly. Don't get it. The stupidity of this world has only two parts. Cough cough. Maybe I wasn't detailed enough. I'll say it again, listen carefully. Molly looked at Flying Squirrel and Bei Sanchin solemnly. Flying Squirrel and Bei Sanchin are both people who know Molly's strength, so they are willing to listen to Molly. Limo stretched out a finger. First, I'll go out and hack those pirates to death. Bei Sanchin nodded. Limo stretched out his second finger. Second, after the cut, you go out to save people. The Flying Squirrel touched his beard. Is this the plan? This is not just that you go out to hack people, and after hacking people to death, we go to the aftermath. Just as Molly was telling the two of his perfect plan, in the number 1 factory in the port, the lights were bright, there were 8 chairs around the big round table, 7 people were seated, and 1 person was kneeling next to him. It was the tavern who ran out. Messenger. One of the extremely burly one, holding a cigar with a fierce face, said, "You said that Sage was killed by a small navy with 1 knife." Yes, Captain Izumi. That man cut off Captain Sage's head with 1 blow. He was terrible. Quan Liang, the boss of the 8 pirate alliances, with a reward of 700 million, is a person with the ability of the animal-type rhinoceros fruit. That's because he's too weak. I didn't agree with him at the time. It's just a waste from the paradise. The one who spoke was a tall and thin man with a knife in his arms, who was the second in the league. The captain of the ship, Jia Chuan, offers a reward of 630 million, a powerful swordsman. Opposite Jia Chuan, a man whose arm was full of flying knives flicked the soot and said, "Jia Chuan, don't be careless. Morris was also beheaded by someone a few days ago, but there is a great swordsman in the Navy." Quote. Duca, how can you say that you were terrified by a great pirate with a bounty of 600 million 8 years ago, just a great swordsman who was promoted by the Navy? The bullshit great swordsman, those 2 in the country of Wano. After he died, how many great swordsmen are there now? Which one is not world famous? He said he was a great swordsman. What the hell am I? Jia Chuan pulled out the knife, waved it a few times, and said disdainfully. Hey, Duca shook his head and cursed stupidly. Okay, don't quarrel, Sage will die if he dies. If the Navy wants to come to us, he will kill him. If he doesn't come, forget it. Quan Liang frowned and said. Quan Liang's sturdy body stood up, looked around the 6 captains on the round table, and said solemnly, I know you have your own ambitions, but now the most important thing is to build the fleet as soon as possible. We have all been struggling in the New World for many years. Now, this is the only chance I don't want to miss. Whoever dares to play tricks at this time will die. Reef area. Mr. Molly, is this plan a little hasty? Flying Squirrel asked reluctantly. No, it's perfect. Limo shook his head. Bei Sanchin looked confused. What did he think of saving people? Is this the plan? Is this funny? Mo Li, you heard me say that I have a better plan to use my abilities. Li Mo frowned slightly. It was obviously very simple, but it had to be so complicated. If you hit oppression, wouldn't the oppressed be free? Such a simple thing, what are you doing? Okay, don't say it anymore. Follow the plan. After Li Li finished speaking, he walked out. Sanchin saw that he was still going his own way, and she gave up. He may have a strong confidence in his own strength. She squatted on the ground and reached out to grab Li Mo's hand. Mo Li, who had just taken a step, looked back at San Qian who was squatting on the ground. Sanchin stood up with a charming smile on his lips, and looked at Mo Li. Mo Li, will you let my friends out? Li Qian looked at the smiling 3000, a never-before-seen emotion spread in his heart, and he returned her a big smile. Don't worry. Chapter 20. Let's talk next time, I'm in a hurry. From the reef area to the shipbuilding port, about 500 meters, Mo Li walked slowly, the thin boatman who hammered the big ship. The labor under the ship was like a corpse, and the vicious pirates held iron thorns on them from time to time, leaving a wound that was turned upside down. Beautiful island, peaceful town. It turned into purgatory on earth. Really, it's frustrating. Mo Li smacked his lips. If he directly chopped it, the sword gang would hurt civilians. It's better to take it lightly and chop people directly. Although it is troublesome, it will not accidentally hurt. However, at this moment, a plump pirate wielding an iron whip found Mo Li who was walking from not far away. It was also Mo Li who was too dazzling, wearing a white navy uniform with a lazy and indifferent smile on his face. Hard to find. Hey, Navy, don't go to work. With a trembling of his hand, the iron whip full of spikes slammed on the ground, splashing sparks. Mo Li ignored it, and while walking, he took out the long knife around his waist together with the scabbard, and covered the scabbard under the hilt guard. A tool of golden iron can be a knife, a tool of grass and trees can be a knife, water can be a knife, air can be a knife, and it can kill people, all can be a knife. Mo Li got closer and closer, holding the knife in his left hand and putting his right hand in his trousers pocket, strolled leisurely to the pirate who was wielding the iron thorn whip. In the port of Nuoda, all the pirates are looking at Li Mo. The fat pirate waved his whip and shouted, Navy, I'll let you go to work. Be obedient to me. The long whip was swung, and it was about to hit Mo Li. Snapped. Kai tilde. The iron thorn whip hit the ground hard, sparks splashing everywhere, but Li Qian disappeared, and a trace of blood oozes from the neck of the fat pirate. Boom. The head fell to the ground and the corpse was separated. The pirates in the port were all stunned for a moment, and then they reacted. Years of fighting and killing made them accustomed to death, and a knife and a head would not make these bloodthirsty people afraid. Ah, the captain has been killed. Brothers, let's go. Avenge the captain. The rest of the pirates waved their weapons and rushed towards Li Qian. A knife, a knife, a knife. Li Qian continued to move forward step by step. Sanchin said that the valuable pirates were all in Factory No. 1, so as long as those people were hacked to death, the mission would be completed. The pirates that rushed over were all beheaded with one knife, leaving behind the corpses and the blood-stained ground all the way where Mo Li walked. Captain, no good. The Navy who killed Sage, here he is. In Factory No. 1, a pirate minion shouted in a panic. Humph, since you're here, don't leave. I'll go. Jia Chuan, who was holding the knife, stood up, twisted his neck, and said sharply. Quan Liang drank a cigar, thought for a moment, then said solemnly, well, solve it as soon as possible, don't destroy the ship in the port. Don't worry, I want to see if he is the great swordsman that the Navy said. Jia Chuan held the knife and walked straight out of the gate of Factory No. 1. There was a river of blood outside the door, and a Navy wielding a scabbard walked towards this direction indifferently, and all the pirates were killed with one sword. Jia Chuan drew his sword and lowered his body. He grinned. Navy, don't be too arrogant. Boom. The rock under Jihuan's feet was crushed by him, and the whole person rushed towards Mo Li like an arrow. It's Captain Jia Chuan. Captain Jia Chuan. Kill him. Since there were pirates in front of Mo Li's line of sight, he didn't see Jia Chuan, and he slashed 2 pirates in front of him. Mo Li saw a man rushing towards him with a knife. Between the lights and flints, Jia Chuan arrived directly above Mo Li, holding the knife in both hands and slashing. A slash shot down, straight to Mo Li below. Mo Li took a step to the right. Boom. The rock-built port was cut into long cracks by Jia Chuan's slash. The blow failed, and Jia Chuan landed. He looked at Mo Li, and said with a grin, hidden away. You are quite capable. Remember, the one who killed you is called Jia Chuan. Kai. Jihuan's head fell to the ground. Mo Li had already walked behind Jia Chuan. Sorry, talk to you next time, I'm in a hurry. Mo Li's indifferent voice sounded, and the swordsman Jihuan, who offered a reward of 630 million, died. In Factory Number 1. Bang! The big round table was smashed to pieces by Quan Liang. Jia Chuan is dead. Well, it seems that this navy is very strong. The people here are all powerful pirates who are proficient in 2-color domineering. The moment they left Jihuan, all the domineering they saw and heard were unfolding, paying attention to the battle outside the door. Duca took out the throwing knives on both arms with a solemn expression. Let's go together, he can't be dealt with by 1 or 2 of us. Quan Liang nodded. Let's go together. Mo Li slashed Jia Chuan with 1 blade, which shocked the pirates and slightly awakened the numb workers. This navy is so strong. Is he here to save us? If that's the case, then we. Li Mo looked around. The pirates who surrounded him did not dare to step forward, and he also walked outside the gate of the number 1 factory. Boom. The door burst open, and a sturdy figure rushed out of the smoke, leaping high, his fists covered with a slightly purple armed color domineering. Navy, pick me up for free. With the man's anger, he punched down. Li Mo raised his head slightly and stretched out his right hand. Bang! The huge force poured out, and the ground under Mo Li's feet split inch by inch. I took it, and then what? As soon as Mo Li finished speaking, a thin figure swept out of the smoke and dust, waving a samurai sword that was almost as long as his height. When Li Mo raised the scabbard to block the knife, and during the collision, the air flow scattered, blowing away the surrounding pirates. Why only 2? Isn't there 7? Mo Li muttered strangely. He didn't know that Jia Chuan, whom he regarded as a pirate minion for a second, was one of the 7. While speaking, his right hand exerted force, pulling the man in the air down, raising his left leg, and hitting his knee against the man's chest. Puff! The man kneeling in front of Mo Li, a mouthful of blood stained Mo Li's front military uniform. You bastard, you stained my clothes. I only have 2 changes of clothes when I go out this time. Before his left leg fell, he kicked the thin swordsman on the left. Mo Li released his right hand and grabbed the fist in his hand, and quickly grabbed it on top of the man's head. Click. Wei Wei squeezed the man's neck directly, and then threw it out. You don't need to say your name, just know that you are valuable. In a few breaths, 1 person was kicked and 1 person was killed. At the same time as the audience was shocked, the smoke and dust from the factory entrance dissipated. On the ruins stood 4 people of different shapes, all of them solemnly looking at Li Mo, who was a few meters away. Cough cough. The slender figure who was kicked away by Mo Li, dragged the knife, clutching his chest, and dodged to the 4 of them. Quan Liang glanced at the man and asked, Jida, can we fight again? The man who lost weight was the knife-dragging man who offered a reward of 550 million, Jida. Probably have a few broken ribs, and we can fight again. Quan Liang stared at Mo Li, who was standing lazily in front of him, and said solemnly, he is very strong. Kill him directly with his abilities, or we will all die. Got it. Mo Li's strength exceeded Quan Liang's expectations. Originally, he thought that Sage was weak and Jihuan was attacked, but now it seems that this person has a powerful strength that makes people tremble, and has the terrifying strength to kill with one strike. Could it be that he has been dormant for more than 10 years and his plans for more than 10 years have been stopped by this person in front of him? Thinking of Quanliang here, he roared, "Stop joking. Navy." With Quanliang's roar, his whole body swelled, a huge sharp horn protruded from his forehead, and he slowly turned into a huge rhino orc with a height of 7 or 8 meters, with a 3 or 4 meter long mace in his right hand. Wow, is this the animal type? Devil fruit is really interesting. Watching a person turn into a big rhino, Molly was a little surprised. Isn't this more fun than the transformed person in the movie?